Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 211. This is Carl.
This is Justin.
And this is Caleb.
Yeah, it is.
It sure is.
Welcome to the studio, Caleb.
Hey, thanks
What's
for
left
having
of
me.
it? This is what it looked like after the Siege of Terra.
We're recording from a crater.
I don't think it looks that bad. It's about 3 times nicer than my studio.
And we have Kat. She'll join us later. She's kind of sitting far away, being socially distant at the moment, but that's okay. That's okay. It was a surprise that Kat showed up. We were very excited to see her. Mm-hmm. She'll jump in once you'll hear later in the show. This show is sponsored by Patreon member Nicholas Golden. Thank you so much, Nicholas. If you're interested in our Patreon, you can find a link to it from theindependentcharacters.com. That's independent without an A. There is no A in independent. Mm-mm. And Justin, this show concept, preparing for battle, was kind of your idea. Why don't you give us a rundown on what the topic is today?
General idea is that there's all kinds of tips and tricks to being more efficient and organized, and the key word is efficient with your hobby time. Everybody works a lot, kids, school, yada yada, and this is just a ton of helpful information, hopefully, to getting that many more models painted and waging the war on gray plastic.
All right.
Faster.
I think it was an awesome idea, so that's why we slotted it in, and we got none other than Caleb Wissenback of CK Studios here to help us out.
Mm-hmm. And I think we all picked up, even ourselves picked up some little
during the break just now, I was measuring stuff. I'm like, table's too big for this spot.
I might be hitting a hardware store after I leave here. So
right.
I think it was a very good success so far.
Well, let's launch into Elite Choice, and I'll go first. And I have chosen Colin Ward.
Not that guy.
For my Elite Choice. This Blood Angels Terminator chaplain that he based, converting Perturabo's body,
awesome.
Is sick. Like, he looks mean, beefy. It's awesome. I like how, it's he used Perturabo as the base, special edition chaplain for some pieces there, and then other quote unquote bits and bobs. And also I noticed, and I can't remember the name of the company. I'll look it up and include it in the show notes. But I noticed Colin's been using nameplates on his characters.
They're super cool.
Bases.
Yeah.
I am liking those more and more, and I think I'm going to start doing that too.
Yeah, for your characters, squad leaders.
Maybe my characters. I don't know about my squad leaders.
Yeah, start with the characters, but very, very cool idea.
But I love it.
The thing I love about that model too is you look at it and it because whenever you read about Terminators in like heresy books, especially, or even the Night Lord's book I'm reading right now, it's like they describe them as like 12 feet tall and just beefy and thick, and that. Well done, dude.
He looks
accomplished.
Awesome. Colin is clearly an accomplished painter and modeler, and he's painted one of my armies, and 2 of my armies. Actually, he painted my Age of Sigmar Chaos Army as well. That was the first commission I gave him, and my Thousand Sons, and
talented,
and just an all around great guy. And normally I kind of leave him off of this. Like, I wouldn't pick you for an Elite Choice, but Colin's kind of moved away from us, and we chat occasionally online and stuff, and
he's a machine. He just cranks stuff out, on top of commission work.
On his Patreon, he's constantly putting out content, which is fantastic. So.
Yeah, that Blood Angels army is very impressive. Beautiful.
Yep. Yeah. I wonder what his red recipe is. Justin, who did you pick?
I went for Patrick Prager and his beautiful Ultramarines. So he's done quite a few posts on the community page. Mm-hmm. It looks like newly kind of getting back into the hobby. Mm-hmm. Took a little bit of a hiatus, but Caleb, I'm not sure if you've seen his work or not, but it looks like it's airbrushed, but it isn't. Like all the gradients and all the modulation and all the volume and everything he's built is all with a brush.
It's impressive.
It's really, really clean. So he did a Redemptor Dreadnought that was just super impressive. It literally looks airbrushed, like it looks like it's from one of the CK 101 classes, but all by brush. The battle damage is like spot on, just super clean.
The gray and white. Is that the gray and white one with the gradients?
No, it's Ultramarines.
Ultramarines. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, but all done by brush and just really clean. He's done. I think he's up to a small starting force of dudes, and just keep it up, man. Really good looking work. And maybe one of these days we'll show you how to use an airbrush to speed that up. But in the meantime, keep brush painting that. It looks awesome.
And by the way, any of these you can see by searching on the Independent Characters Facebook group for the hashtag Elite Choice. Yep. When we that hashtag is reserved for show hosts and that kind of thing. And when we see something that we're going to pick for that week, that's what we'll tag it with.
It's hard. It's getting hard to pick, man. When I'm getting ready for the show, I'll sit there on that
Harder and
community
harder.
page for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Just
Yeah.
you got to narrow it down to like the top
worst part
five.
is, like, you'll see something good during the early, like we'll record this episode, and then like tomorrow I'll be looking and I'll be like, oh my God, look at that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do I pick
jot
that
it down now?
or do I wait because something else might come in? But I tend to kind of keep little notes on the ones I want to look at, and then I kind of review those at the end of the week and go over that.
It's cool to see too. I feel like the community is kind of like it's definitely inspiring itself, and you see that you've seen the level kind of go up and up and
God,
up, and
so
everybody's
good.
open to criticisms if they're trying to get their painting better.
Yeah.
Which is huge. If you guys are posting pictures on there, definitely just ask for feedback if you want it. If you're happy with your painting, nobody's going to go on there and be like, "Oh, I would have drilled your bolters."
Everybody, I will.
Bolters, yeah. Undrilled bolters, you're gonna get a talking to.
Well, you're gonna
slacking.
get two sides of that.
You will.
Get the Jeff's faction telling you
Never
never drill, and I'm gonna be like, I could suspend Jeff for a couple of weeks.
Good. What were you gonna say, Caleb?
I don't know. It just the community is awesome.
Yeah.
It's so positive, and yeah, since this community's grown, you do see a lot more people putting more stuff up,
And a lot of them have taken your classes, and then you see the results in those classes.
Yeah, that's fun.
Speaking of one of those, who did you pick?
So, I had that same problem Justin had looking through for the whole week. I got excited when you asked me to be on this. I was like, ooh, I got to figure out what my elite choice is going to be. And I kind of poured over, and I went quite a ways back, maybe into stuff that might have been covered in other shows because I want to find something good. But the one thing that just popped out to me was Levi Colt Wainwright and his 30K salamanders.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for it. And it's a personal thing with me. You can really see the...
Now, you said you were a bit biased here, and
Yeah,
that's
I was a
fine.
bit-
We
I was
can be
definitely a bit
biased. It's our show.
Because it's definitely that CK Studios style. What we're teaching in the 101, you're seeing put into place and put onto the tabletop, and you can see the growth of that army. And it was awesome because he planned out this army. He
So good.
yeah, and it took him a couple months. But his goal was to get an army ready for a 30K event. And,
He did not fear the ugly phase.
no, he did not fear the ugly phase.
Look at that. What's that? The big
Mastodon.
mastodon.
Yeah.
So good.
The modulation on that. I was just like, and the color use, just everything. It's so sharp. It's so clean. And he ended up, taking best of paint, which
So great.
so
For a heresy event, that's huge.
yeah. So bravo to Levi. And that's why I mentioned that one. That's pretty neat. And it's kind of
his dread.
it's close.
Leviathan. Leviathan.
Leviathan Dreadnought.
That's the
Yeah,
one. I went AOS for a minute there.
that's all right. That is
such
a great
fun
model.
model to paint too.
And it's really, like Caleb said, it definitely it promotes that CK style of just that your eyes have to look at that army from 12 feet away. It's going to pop off a table, but at the same time, it drags you in. You start seeing all that modulation, all that volume, and then all the lighting, glow effects he's done, and the great detail work. So yeah, super well done.
Sharp.
Yeah.
Just tagging that one because you didn't tag it. You probably didn't know that, Caleb. I didn't tell you, but I just tagged it for you with the elite choice tag. That is a congratulations. Now to be clear, he's taken the CK Studios courses.
Oh yeah, and he has traveled to so many different classes. He's kind of we have a few mainstays that show up a lot. Adon being one of them.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, very nice. Very nice. Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, man. So
Carl got stuck in that army.
yeah, I was looking at it. Okay. Justin, Chris Morgan reached out to us
That's right.
about an article that he had written on Frontline. He's preparing for an article and a session around mental health and gaming.
Mental health and the hobby.
Yeah. And so I guess he's doing an interview with
So he already did the interview. You can read the article up with him and Chris.
right,
And
who's a mental health professional.
That's right. And CK Studios student as well. He was in the LA class. We stayed with him. Really nice guy. And so he already has an article kind of covering all of this, but Chris is basically asking for people to send him questions anonymously. Obviously he's not going to mention names or anything, but if you're having any kind of issues going on, it's been a rough year. Yeah. And in general, Mental health is something that's all too often not talked about until it's kind of too late, unfortunately, sometimes. So he's asking that people, if they have any questions or concerns, they can reach out. Of course, if it's an emergency situation, don't reach out to Chris Morgan, but just in general, if there's anything on your mind, and then he's going to cover those questions and answers with an actual doctor.
Yeah. Unless it's an emergency situation about blood angels, because then Chris Morgan is your guy, and he knows everything about blood angels.
All right, Chris, tell me about Tycho. What makes him cool?
So then last but not least, certainly, I went through the notes of every episode since we started Elite Choice. And I started noting down who was picked, who picked them, right? And I'm keeping all this information in a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. Because, as you know, last time we actually brought some people into the Hall of Legends. These are people who are no longer allowed to be picked as an elite choice because
you're now a mentor to others.
They've graduated, and honestly, they've just been picked too many times.
Yeah.
And we're just like, you know what, we can't mention this person anymore on this. It's not fair to the rest of the community.
Not to say, keep your lovely work coming.
Please. But here's the thing. As I was looking back through the number of times people have been mentioned or not mentioned, but really should have been because of other things they have done within the community or things, around. I have 3 other names I'm going to add to that list. And I will tell you, there's at least 2 people that are very close, very close at this moment. They are the way they're going. It's not. It's just soon. A matter of time.
Yep.
But the 3 people I've decided to add to this at this point, and after this, what will happen is before anybody gets added to that, it'll be you, me, Adon, and Jody who talk about. Does this person qualify at this point? Okay. So there'll be a panel. There'll be actual standards, not just mine. I think this is appropriate. But right now, I think this is appropriate. Sure. I picked the first 3. I'll pick these 3. So the first one is Colin Ward. And Colin, we haven't mentioned on the show as an elite choice because, well, he's a personal friend. Yeah. I would not mention Justin as an elite choice either. Because he's a host of the show, and Colin at that time was around. He would join the show from time to time. Just felt kind of disingenuous. But the reality is, Colin is an incredibly talented painter. He shares his work frequently on the group. He has his own Patreon, and he is putting out tons of content with showing you how he's accomplishing some of these results. He has given me personal help in like how do I lay down decals and those kinds of things, transfers or whatever, which has helped me tremendously. Not only that, he doesn't do as much commission work as he used to, but he has commission painted, as I mentioned earlier, my Thousand Suns army, which is just gorgeous. He had that beautiful AdMech army that ended up getting stolen. Right. And he sold parts of it, but everything he's done since then has just been phenomenal. And I've watched him grow. As a painter, when I first met him, I was like, this guy's fantastic. And I've seen him just get better and better.
Sure.
So Colin Ward, I'm going to add to the Hall of Legends.
Congratulations, buddy.
As well there. We used to joke about how everything he's painted is blue, but now he's doing blood angels, which are red. Yeah. And just he knows how to do red too. Like he, you guys all know how to do colors better than I do. Okay. Next up, David Roberts. David Roberts of Dave Paints is, when I think about commission painters, he has kind of unlocked the secret of being a commission painter. He does it for a living. He regularly shares his stuff. So the rule on the page is like, if you have a business or something, you're not allowed to really kind of promote that business outside of if it's irrelevant. If there's a conversation going on about, say, for example, paint organizing trays and you happen to sell those, you're welcome to say, hey, here's one that I sell that you might find useful. There are a few people, Colin and Dave, I allow to go ahead and post the work they're doing because I have utilized them. I know you are getting value for your dollar from these guys. Dave has painted multiple armies for me at this point. My
guy's a machine.
Tzeentch Demons and Shells Eldar. And I am so satisfied with the work he has done at the price he did it and the speed with which he did it. And that's where he's unlocked kind of the key to commission painting. Yep. He gets great results for the speed that he's doing. He knows where to hit and where to draw your eye. And it may not be the most detailed paint job you've ever seen, but when you're looking at it on the table, you're like, that is a beautiful combination of colors. Yeah. And
Deserved. Yeah.
Great guy. He is the quintessential commission painter. Like, he communicates with you every step of the way.
That's cool.
He will quickly, do up demo models and say, what do you think of this? I want more purple in that. I want more black in that. Okay. What do you think of this? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Cool. And then he'll move forward from there. And he's a personal friend too, that I get to see every now and then when I travel out there, but, fantastic painter. And not only that, once you've taken possession of what you bought, if I had questions around, what colors did you use on this? How did you get this? Here's how I did it. And I've been able to replicate the work he did on Shells Eldar to add more units, and you wouldn't be able to tell which.
Yeah, that's cool, because a lot of times commission painters will be a little
standoffish,
secretive over there.
No, he's the best of the best. I love the guy, and next, and then last but not least, and this one actually got called by, I think, by one of the folks that got the award last week, was Tom Taylor Big. Tom Taylor Big got overlooked, to be perfectly honest. He has been mentioned a ton of times, and I didn't realize how many times he's been chosen. He has been mentioned way too many times. His work and his attitude are everything the independent character stands for. He's a great guy. He's a talented
super nice.
painter. Yeah. He generates a lot of conversation. Fantastic. Congratulations, Tom Taylor Big.
Congratulations, buddy. Well deserved.
All right, so I'll get examples of their work up on the page in the Hall of Fame. And then now from this point forward,
there's a panel. 4
of us are on the panel. We have to decide. Ties are broken by cat.
Sounds good.
All right. I think that's it. I think we're ready to actually kick off the show.
I think so. Let's talk efficiency, organization, preparation.
Introduction.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, let's talk about it. So, Caleb, thanks so much for joining us. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
All right. Here we go.
Matt here to welcome you into 2020 and tell you about an amazing new offer from Tablewar. All returning customers receive an extra 10% off Tablewar's US web store. Need a tower case? 10% off. Need a new fat mat? 10% off. Need a macro mat, geomat, or just some accessories? All 10% off. This offer starts January 1st and will continue on throughout 2020. No coupon required. Just ensure you have an account and this discount is automatic. This is our way of saying thank you to all of our loyal customers. So visit us today at tablewar.com. Tablewar! Tablewar is a registered trademark of Tablewar Designs, Inc., all rights reserved.
All right, so let's kick it off with a little bit of hobby progress.
Yeah.
Justin,
a little bit
see
done.
You've been doing some reading.
Unfortunately, for my wallet.
Fortunately for your entertainment value.
That's true. Very true. So yeah, I did start the Night Lords books.
Yeah.
And off to a great start. Very impressed.
Yeah.
A little bit Count Chocula-y at first, especially with the voice acting. But I'm digging it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, I don't want to start another army.
One of the things I love about it is that, have you read them, Caleb?
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I love about them is that, like, how their ships, they keep all dark. Like, they don't have any lights on. And, like, even their slaves are, like, having to deal with
super creepy.
Yeah, it is really creepy. Prey sight.
Digging it, though. Yeah.
It is good.
Maybe just a kill team. That's how it starts, right?
That's how it started.
Damn you, Aaron Dembski-Bowden. Damn you.
All right, what else you got going on?
So I've been pretty busy with work, but I did manage to get quite a bit more work done on the Plague Marine Horde. I think I'm up to 26 or 28. And
Marines themselves.
Yeah. Yep. And they're looking good. I'm kind of realizing that I kind of had them a little bit too dark in order to get to that streaking grime effect, where you airbrush the streaking grime, the enamels, and then wash it off.
Because if it's too dark, you won't see that.
Exactly, and it kind of dulls down the contrast. So I'm actually going back and kind of brightening up certain parts, especially around the heads and the shoulders and the metallics, just so it kind of takes that enamel wash that much better. So I've been working on them, but they're all battle ready. You know, all of them, bases, everything. So that's been fun. Those models are just so detailed. It's like just when you think you're done, you find like a little maggot somewhere, or like a mouth tooth coming out of the belly that you missed, or entrails and all the good things of life. But yeah, it's plucking away on them.
Cool.
Probably got another, I'd say easily 8 hours or so into those guys. And then just last night, actually, I did a little hobby hang with my my buddies and got about 3 more hours into my Blightlord Terminators, because I got them kind of almost battle ready.
How many are you doing at once? 5?
5.
Okay.
So I have 10 that are at that same level, but I'm finding that there's just not enough points to run that 10-man bomb and all the other stuff I want to use. And, you know, as we'll talk about with games played, you know, when you have those big units, you're taking more blast shots, and it's just easier. You know, you're taking more shots. So it seems like it's the addition of MSU for the most part. But yeah, just put more time into them, and that's pretty much it. Just still focused on the Death Guard. My Harlequins are. I sat
watching with jealousy.
I had to put them in the display cabinet next to my studio, because I was like, I'm tired of these double-sided faces leering and laughing at me and crying at me. But yeah,
all right.
I'm enjoying the Death Guard, so I do what I want.
All right. I've so as I mentioned last time, I like my painting area is kind of a disaster at the moment. But so I just decided to start assembling Sisters of Battle. And yeah, I've started making some progress. They're in the cabinet over there, replacing where my Thousand Suns normally sit. But the thing I have noticed, you just talked about models that are detailed. Mm-hmm. Holy cow.
It turns out Games Workshop models have a lot of detail.
And these sisters are like, as I'm looking at them, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a project. Like, these are super detailed.
Like Thousand Suns level of trim and insanity detail?
Easily.
Okay, yeah.
Easily. Like,
yeah, because they have lots of
stuff.
Filigree and parchments and...
Yeah. Whereas the Thousand Suns is just mostly a lot of gold trim.
Yeah.
This is different things on them. Grenades, necklaces, just even just the torsos, like the I guess breastplate, part of it is different colors and different textures on it. So there's a lot to it.
And of course, a lot of open faces. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I kind of lean towards, honestly. Like I love the helmets on some of them. I especially like the helmet that's modeled with the face plate up.
Yeah.
But I like the iconic looking sister, hair and face.
Sure.
And so I'm going to, do that. So I assembled a bunch of battle sisters. That's really what I'm focusing now. Before I even get into that, so, Caleb, you were talking about a friend that was going to sell you a bunch of sisters, and then I was like, well, give me the number. Let me talk to them. As I looked at everything I had bought for them, I basically bought a whole army, and I was like, oh man, it's one thing to assemble a whole army. It's another thing to paint a whole army. But then I started thinking, what I should do is break off a small component of this. I'll do my 50 power level Crusade Force, and I'll start with that and then grow the Crusade Force.
That's a really good idea.
From there, because
so
that's
much more manageable.
Right.
Yeah.
So, however, it turns out you have to make a lot of sisters to fill in a 50 power level force.
Sure.
They are not expensive to put in a unit. So,
and what color scheme are you doing again?
Well, I've changed that up too.
Okay.
Originally, I was going to do like white armor with purple, like cloaks and tabards and stuff. But then
like
I was
like a cream white. With
yeah,
the purple,
but I was kind of looking at Shell's Eldar and my Thousand Suns and then the Zeech, and I'm like, I got a lot of blues and purples.
Stay away from my purple, man. I'm the purple guy.
Well, I was purple before you, so
okay. No,
my first Space Marine army was purple. It was purple and beige, so
that was like what, 2003?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, I sold it all off. It was painted terribly, but by God, it was purple.
It was purple. Yeah.
So anyway, I basically I saw a really great example of the Sisterhood of the Bloody Rose, which is red, and I'm not a huge fan of red, but I'm like, I'm gonna paint I like a deep dark red.
Sure, more crimson-y.
Yeah. And so as I looked at that, I was like, you know what? I don't have a red army anymore. Well, I do. I have word bearers now that I think about it, but I'm not playing them. You know, they're kind of relegated to the bottom of a of a cabinet
Sure.
collecting dust. But I was like, this is a cool looking army, and it would be fun to do kind of a red thing. And I know Colin's been doing a lot of Blood Angel stuff, and so I was like, I might do this one. And I kind of read about them, and they're like super combat oriented, like
nice,
just totally vicious. Like they'll go into battle, and like let's say they're freeing like a bunch of slaves, even like other sisters of battle who've been captured or whatever. They won't even free those people. They'll just continue to slaughter until their slaughter is done. Then they'll go back and free people because they're like, they have this doctrine about like just, overwhelming force and just ruthlessness. So
very cool. So
like,
you'd have lots of like jump pack troops and repentia and in your face. Yeah.
Yeah. And not the penitent engine, but the other one. I can't remember what it's called, with the coffin on the front now. I'm going to run about 3 of those too in this thing.
I like it.
They'll be pretty badass. So yeah, Sisterhood of the Bloody Rose is the scheme that I've settled on. I'm going to start working on that. I think it's a beautiful scheme. I assembled some Battle Sisters. I assembled 3 Seraphim so far. Those go together really nice. This is from the original kit, and they're just really, really well put together. They're beautiful models. I assembled a Rhino because I was like, let's change it up, do a couple vehicles, because in this list I have a few vehicles.
Rhinos are so crucial nowadays.
And I love
transports in general.
I can assemble Rhinos in like 15 minutes, like super fast.
Yeah.
But then this one has like all kinds of stuff you stick onto it.
Did they get a new Rhino kit, or is it the same?
It's the same Rhino kit, which has been redone like within the last few years. But then you get an extra sprue with all the sister stuff on it. So they have special doors, a special hatch on the top. They have a different front to it. They have
and of course that stuff is so cool, you got to put it on,
and then iconography on it.
You have to put it on.
Yeah. And so then there's that, and then I assembled an Immolator, and I thought this was just like a Rhino with like the flamer top, and that's what it used to be. Not anymore.
Not so much.
This is not a Rhino anymore. It doesn't even. It's not even the base Rhino kit.
Nice.
It's like its own new kit. And
God, they got so much love. Sisters got so much love.
Good Lord, the number of pieces in this kit. I am not even joking. Like, and this is from a guy I like assembling Land Raiders and Rhino. Yeah, nothing on this kit.
Took some time, huh?
This took me a couple days to assemble. And some of the details on it are just like so precise. Like you have a sister sitting in the copula or whatever, who's steering the like flame turret, but you have to line up the handles with where her hands are and glue them. And the handle is like, you remember the cigar in the Goliath gang in Necromunda? It's like that bits. Tiny. Like it's so tiny. So what a great looking model. And the neat thing about it too is you have 3 weapon options. You have like heavy bolters, you have flamers, and you have multi-meltas.
Sure.
And they make it very easy to magnetize.
That's good.
Those.
That's good.
Like super easy. So
yeah, what a cool looking kit, man.
Great kit.
I'm noticing on a lot of the new kits that they're making them more adaptable to magnetizing.
It's really appreciated in this case, because at first I was like, well, I'm going to mount flamers on this. And I'm like, oh, it comes with multi-meltas. Well, do I want multi-meltas? Or maybe I'll just do the multi-meltas. And this is one of those cases where normally, like if it were a Rhino-based kit, I'd just be like, no, I'll just glue this on. I'll buy another one, whatever. But after assembling this thing for the hours it took to assemble it, I was like, I have to assemble another one of these too for my list, and I've got it over there. But I'm like,
and that's a dual kit, yeah? You can build the Exorcist out of it, or no? That's a separate kit.
That's a separate kit. So great kit, though.
So cool, man.
I've got Celestine assembled. I got a few characters assembled. So I'm starting off on my way, but now I'm building towards a list. So it's a little more, don't just assemble all this stuff. I'm like, well, I need another sister, battle line sister. I'll take one of these. I need a Seraphim. So I feel like I'm making progress towards something, and something I'm going to be able to play relatively quickly. So
you can do a test model before you jump into painting it. Yeah.
Oh yes.
That's always good.
Yeah, and I've been talking to Colin about how he does the red for his Blood Angels. So
cool. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing it.
If only I could take a CK class right now. How to paint red.
2020.
Caleb, what about you? What have you been doing, man? Oh, I had to go back to work, so not as much hobby time as I was hoping to have. But I got the sister bug too. You saw those kits come out, and I was like, I couldn't resist. So originally, I picked up that limited edition box set, snagged that, and then I got Sister. What was that? Amelia.
That sounds right.
I think that's the model.
Like a Canoness type character, yeah.
No, she's like just a battle line sister, but it was one of those special editions. She's standing on the base. It's got the little candles on it and stuff like that. So I put her together, and I wanted to do a test color scheme.
Yeah.
And
what are you going with? What color scheme are you going?
I'm leaning towards the black and red. Just
the standard.
Yeah,
I love it. Like it's a classic look. I was hard pressed to not do it.
Sure.
The thing that prevented me from doing it was I'm painting Black Legion.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't want to paint more black. Like I want to do something different.
Right. And another reason I lean towards that is I'm developing my techniques for black.
Okay.
Because another.
Well, let me teach you how to do it.
Another project I'm going to be working on is my Golden Demon entry with sculpted Abaddon. That Cadius Lands piece that I want to do. And I dabbled back when I did my Raven Guard captain.
Yeah.
Is when we started developing how to kind of paint the different colors
of
black.
Yeah.
Because, black can be developed from any color base.
Yes.
And I did that one in like a gray, a cool blue type color base. And this time I wanted to try a green color base as my basis. And I fell in love with this color from Monument Paints, the Procreals.
Procreal,
yep. Called? Jade. I don't know what it is about that color. I absolutely love it.
Nice.
So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try introducing that into the black and see if I can't make a little more interesting of a black color. So I put together that Sister Amelia and went ahead and just started playing with that. But then, of course, you get inspired by things and you're watching the video that GW came out with for 9th edition with the sister, and she's got the glowing icon and all that stuff. And I was like, I want to try something like that. So I started playing with some glowing effects, and one thing leads to another, and that's about all as far as
picking a scheme is the hardest thing in an army painting, I think. Because once you've picked it, that's what you're doing for
you're committed.
A while. You're committed, right?
Well, yeah, and I think that
you better like it.
I build my armies and stuff not off of how they play on the tabletop.
Right.
I strictly build my stuff off of what I want to paint and how I want to paint it.
Yeah.
When I started with the Space Marines, I knew I wanted to paint a yellow army. So I just agonized over either Imperial Fist or Lamenters. Right. Which one do I want to do? How do you want that army to play on the tabletop? But everything was based. It was all geared off of what color I wanted to paint. So that's how I build my armies. The sisters, I totally the detail that's in those models just called to you.
It's insane.
Just like, I got to paint these models. So
the other thing I noticed about the sisters is, this is a guy who's used to painting Space Marines, demons, that kind of thing.
Big chunky boys.
They are small.
Oh yeah.
Like they're small. Like sometimes I'm putting them together and I'm like, my stupid fat finger can't hold this thing. Like, cause the pieces are so tiny. And I'm like, how am I going to paint this small thing? I'm hoping in a way it's a little more forgiving painting something so small, because
welcome to my world with all those Eldar armies.
Yeah.
And tiny wrists and ankles and bits and bobs. Yeah.
These girls are crazy great models. Just incredible. You were just looking at that, and that doesn't. Oh, and by the way, that the immolator also comes with a screen that goes in front. That's a stained glass screen, so it's that clear plastic. So I think I'm going to use the Tamiya color thing. All I have is red, so I need to get like some blues and yellows,
greens,
greens, just to fill that in. I think that'll look great.
Totally.
But that model, and that doesn't. The one you're looking at too doesn't have the weapons magnitude. You can see where they go.
Sure.
But look at the level of detail and
lots of filigree
on that thing. And it's just, God, they're gorgeous though. They're gorgeous.
That's crazy to see the levels of craziness that Games Workshop is doing, man.
Every new set of models they come out with, you're just like.
They just had the release, the preview video today, right? With all the new Necron stuff.
And all the Necron stuff. The flayed ones look so good.
And I'm getting a new Death Guard book. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, you are.
Stoked.
It looks great. So, going forward, I'm just going to continue to build towards this list, I need to actually buy a couple things. I need to get I can't remember what they're called. They're the other penitent engines, right? But other than that, like I have everything I need to get the whole thing assembled.
Yeah, just focus on that 50 power level list and just stick with it, right?
Yeah.
Because power level is not power level, Crusade, which uses power level, is very much like the, anti-competitive you have to have.
But it's strict too.
Oh, it is.
Like it's interesting
It is.
in reading it as you build your list, you're like, boy, you hope you made the right choices because you can't swap those things out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for it, and that's what I started out my sisters as kill team. That was my consideration at first. Was I was just going to do kill team, and that's how long it takes me to develop an army and paint it. I've been working on this thing for.
But in the meantime, you painted Shell's kill team for Night Lords.
That's true.
But then Crusade comes out.
Yeah.
And we're sitting down reading Crusade, and me and a couple of my family members mainly.
Yeah.
We're all looking at doing Crusade. And
yeah.
So everybody's going that extra mile with your models because you're not going to smash. You don't need to smash through 100 models.
No.
Now you just.
But I'm with you. I mean, the way I build my army is typically I want to. I just want to enjoy what I'm putting out on the table. And so, like, to me.
And have a strong theme, too, right?
A theme.
If you're doing Crusade.
So to me, like, the Sisters of Battle were like, well, their rhinos look cool. I really want at least a rhino. And I like the immolators. And I like what's the one called that fires the missiles?
The Exorcist?
Exorcist. I kept wanting to say Executioner. I love the Exorcist. Can't fit it in the list yet at 50 power level. I'm like, I'll leave it off. I'll come. That'll be something I grow into.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like. I want some actual battle line sisters. I like the Seraphim. They're cool. I'll get back to like.
What are they? The heavy weapon ones? The Retributors?
Yeah.
Especially with heavy bolters.
I have a squad
heavy
of them.
bolters going to 2 damage. Ooh.
I don't know if.
And all the Primaris out there.
I don't know if I go heavy bolters or multi-meltas with them. And multi-meltas are still 24-inch range.
And they're going to 2 shots too, right? With multi-meltas, I think that's the rumor. Can't magnetize those. You got to decide.
That's a great model. And that's a great unit, rather. All those models are great.
I mean, I guess you look at your army, and if you need more anti-tank, then give them multi-meltas.
Then you do that,
yep.
But in Crusade, you kind of have to anticipate that a little up front, Yep. But I do like the way the army grows and your battle roster grows and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so.
I'm super excited for that. I'm looking forward to that.
Caleb, you also started working on a 75 millimeter miniature.
Yeah. But before I got started on that, I also finished up the Space Marine side to Indominus.
Did
building
you?
them so far.
Just building. Okay.
That's kind of my standard army build. I'm building up that Imperial Fist list. That's what I ended up deciding on for the Space Marines was Imperial Fist. So I'm doing a full Primaris Imperial Fist, and I want to have every unit for that one, regardless of what game I'm playing or the build. I just want to have every unit.
Let me ask you this: do you enjoy playing Space Marines? That wasn't a quick response.
Well, maybe when the new codex comes out.
It depends on how
they're Marines.
I've always liked the more fast. I don't like gunline armies.
Right.
And that's where I really struggle between Imperial Fists.
Which are typically like a hold the line kind of.
And Lamenters, And so I was like, man, I want to really do a close combat. When I'm playing 40K, I like to be able to really react on the tabletop and play the game. I don't really like gun lines.
Castling up and just
sit there and it's just like, all right, well, I'm going to do, you know what I mean? It's like playing the Death Stars.
The great thing is a lot of the new missions force you to move.
Right.
Oh, you have to.
You cannot sit back there and just be a gun line for the most part.
So I was considering that. Again, my whole reason for doing the army was I wanted to paint yellow.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my determining factor because another side project, and I have so many half-done side projects. Another side project I have is a World Eaters army that I did, converting the Blood Warriors over. And that army is going really slow because it's all non-metallic metals.
Yeah.
All the armor's all non-metallic metals.
Nope.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of nope for me.
By the time he finishes a squad, the new World Eaters Codex will be out, and he'll be like, "Oh man,
that's what
I just painted the wrong squad."
That's what I'm worried about right now. Are the new Berserkers coming?
Yeah, you never know.
I'm just.
I'll tell you when they're going to come as soon as you finish painting Berserkers.
Exactly.
Or as soon as you've gotten 3/4 of the way through it.
So now I'm going to get all these messages. Everybody's going to say, "Hurry up and get on those things."
Right.
So yeah, that was kind of the reasoning behind going for the Imperial Fist.
Right.
So it'll be an army that plays different.
Right.
And then, it kind of forced me into playing a gunline army. But I was thinking...
You still have aggressors and you have eradicators. You have a lot of units that can move around the board.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking for this, I want to play a little kind of fluffy as like a mechanized infantry. Like what we'd have, like modern, you'd have Bradleys. Your infantry guys are supported by Bradleys, and then maybe a couple of like M1s as your fire support. So I'm thinking going and getting like 5 of the impulsors.
5, huh?
Yeah. I mean,
get 2.
Just to be fluffy.
Start with 2.
Well, no, I'm thinking it won't be a big army. It's definitely going to be an elite army, consider.
You don't need 5.
But everything, no boots on the ground, like everything mechanized.
Everything mechanized. So each immolator will run like a 5-man squad.
Yeah.
And then, and then they'll deploy kind of in that position. And then you'll have a couple of elites that come in. And
those Invictus war suits would fit your theme too, up in your face, in opponent's face, just charging up there.
Well, and the other interesting thing too is when you're going narrative gaming, if you're looking to ally in units too, you can ally in sisters. And it makes complete sense.
My problem is just, that whole squirrel thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And oh, man, painting yellow was really fun. Now I want to go paint black. Now
you bounce back and forth.
Yeah, after that, I'll be back to red again, so I'll be back painting more World Eaters.
Oh, and you're going to take my Warhound Titan with you.
Oh, am I?
When you leave. Isn't that what we discussed?
Surprise!
No, we discussed that.
It's a Warhound, not a Warlord.
Yeah, it's a Warhound.
Warhound.
Warlord.
Yeah.
Right, Cat?
And then also to kind of cleanse my palate, I guess I'd say, is I started again on another 75 millimeter. It's a great piece. It's it's a girl. She's kind of floating in the air on like notes.
Okay.
It's like a cloud with
like
notes
like musical notes.
Yeah, musical notes, and she's holding a cello. It's a 75 millimeter.
Interesting.
It's going to be a lot of really smooth, soft skin tones. So I want to kind of get away from the armies, get away from mass painting, edge highlighting.
This is definitely a palette cleanser. That's a totally different type of project.
Right. So I want to get kind of back into that because I haven't really painted much display / competition models in a while. I want to say the last one I did was that Kingdom Death figure.
Okay.
So I want to get back into that too. I want to make sure that I'm practicing that side of my painting and kind of keep my edge.
Pushing yourself.
Stuff. Yeah. So like I'll spend a week painting a leg.
One thing we talked, I can't do it. Like I reach a limit where I'm just like, good enough, but it's a different mindset. One of the things we were talking about recently on the show too, was how many models are coming out with, sheer stuff over the face and that kind of thing. And I've seen on painting groups that I'm a part of, some really well done examples of like a sheer kind of gauze.
Yeah, so you see the skin tones underneath the cloth.
It's just insanely good what some people are doing with this stuff. And Games Workshop released that one model that has that same feature. I'm trying to remember the model line.
It's from the Lumineth Realm Lords, yeah.
Is it? Yeah, but she's gorgeous too, and I just
the one with like the braziers and stuff, and yeah.
And I just don't know how you would even go about painting something like that.
Thin your paints,
really thin.
Glaze.
Yeah, I guess so. But man, some people are doing some incredible stuff there. All right, well, cool.
As far as goals and promises, I'm just going to keep pumping on the Death Guard. I've got 2 rhinos that need their old Heresy, Mark 1 or 2, like the old school rhinos that need some Nurgle lovin'. So I'm going to focus on those. And then eventually my Terrax drill is going to arrive from Eric. Can't wait to get into that bad boy.
Nice.
Loaded up with 10 Plague Marines popping out in your backfield. Hello.
Did you see today
how are you?
They announced to the compendium of Forge World?
Can't wait.
Oh man, I'm excited about that.
I cannot wait. I have so much Forge World stuff that's just,
sitting there,
yeah.
Did you see that article they were talking about the Hellblades and modifying them with all the...
That's the Chaos Drop Pod? Or no, the Hellblade's the flyer.
Hellblade's the flyer.
Yeah, I have
using that in support, particularly for Death Guard, giving them the disgusting resilience and all that stuff. I need to be a little closer.
Yeah, it'd help. Thanks.
There we go.
Sorry, guys, for my horrible podcast etiquette. But yeah.
He's a fantastic painter. Terrible show host.
Got to go with what you're strong at.
There you go. Why do you think I talk so much? Not my painting.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say something about the input-output thing of the microphones before recording, but we'll leave that off.
Justin's an AV guy.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw that article, and I actually own one that's not painted. But I still kind of want to see what happens with all those Forge World units before I decide where that Hellblade goes.
Yeah, that compendium's gonna be great for that. I'm really curious to see where a lot of units. I mean, for my World Eaters, I have a bunch of Dreadclaws, and I'm hoping they're
now that you have the
usable.
studio writing the rules for those. I think you'll see them more in line with what they're thinking, and I think it'll help them.
And the points are the big thing, right? Because there were so many units where like the rules weren't half bad, but they were pointed so high. That
They were always pointed heavily, and I think that's kind of a reaction to in the past there was a lot of complaints about they're uncosted and too powerful, and
like an overcorrection.
Yeah, so I think they overcorrected. But
see Zolfor back on that table.
Yeah. Yep. Can't wait.
Can't wait. All right. So yeah, you're working on that 75 millimeter model, and I think we kind of went through where you're headed. So, any games played? I have played nothing. We're still doing RPGs at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get a game in soon. Like I was scheduling one, I think with Jody, but we fell through. But
let me know, man.
I've only played like one game a night so far.
Let me know.
You're
I'm
down
ready.
the street.
Throw down some Crusade.
All right. So what about
you? Got a game in?
You got
Caleb?
a game in?
Yes, I did.
Really?
So, I guess you could call it a game. We sat down and we wanted to figure out ninth.
Yeah.
We wanted to sit down and got the rule book out and see what the variations are between 8th and 9th. And I finally got some time to sit down and read the rule book. And so we just, we played the Necron and the Space Marine from the box set. We didn't worry about power levels and
just
doing
played
all that stuff.
what
We
was
wanted
there.
to see how the system works.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. It's really, I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to really change the game, but it changes a few things for it. I'm really interested in the first big change that I noticed was the multiple damage wound loss. So, you were just talking about those heavy bolters that are going to be damaged too.
Yep.
And in 8th, if you had, let's say you shot 4 heavy bolters and they all wounded, that's 8 wounds.
Max.
You have the potential to take 8 models out of that squad. Well, now that only takes 4 models out of that squad because each weapon, though it does 2 damage, can only kill 1 model.
The wounds don't carry through like they do in AOS.
They don't stack unless it's the mortal wounds.
Yeah.
Mortal wounds will carry through. But so I was interested about that because I'm wondering how that's going to play towards swarms.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Is the rate of fire rate of fire still the same?
I think they kind of offset that though a bit with the way blast weapons work and flame weapons work.
That's
There's a lot of people are lamenting the death of hordes, but it's clear that Games Workshop really wanted to speed the game up. I mean, just by it being 5 turns.
I don't think that it's a death. I don't think hordes are going to go away.
No,
because
I mean, you can still outflank with them.
You need to choose,
reserve them,
and you need to choose. Are you going to go blast weapons or are you going to go high damage weapons? Because if you go blast weapons, those multi-wound characters or multi-wound units, I mean, we're talking about 3-wound Space Marines now, they're going to shrug blasts off because it's only 1 wound per, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like it. It really adds another aspect to the game. You're going to have to really think about how your damage is being output, where your damage is being output, and then it slows the game down a little bit, I think, because of the dice rolling part, but you really need to determine where you're going to put your weapons, what weapons you're going to shoot first in a unit, stuff like that. I'm digging that side of it. It's very tactical, and I've always liked that about the game. When they dumb the game down a bit, it got kind of a little boring.
We don't like to say we dumb the game down.
Oh, when we've
I disagree. I think going to 8th. I think going to 8. So what you had is you had 5th edition, which I would argue was fairly streamlined.
That was my favorite edition, by the way.
But by the end of 5th edition, everybody was bored with it. Like all the games felt the same. It was dull and repetitive.
A lot of the lists were the same.
Then 6th edition came out, quickly replaced by 7th edition. And in those editions, they kind of tried to have a rule for everything. And it became just too much. Close combat really ground to a halt. So then they switched back to a more And people would say dumbed it down. I felt like, and it wasn't even just streamlining, it went from a more game about what happens to every individual to a more abstract kind of combat.
Sure.
Right? Like facing didn't matter on your vehicles because your vehicle's considered to be moving and turning and firing and okay. And I do lament the loss of some things. Like I did like that, if you had the rear of your vehicle, if you could get into that rear arc, you could cause this damage. But look at how many times it made stupid looking things on the table.
And arguments too.
Look at all my rhinos back to back on the table like they're UPS trucks, changing packages.
Blast markers. I'm so glad blast markers are gone.
I mean, things just got but I mean the quote unquote romantic side of me misses kind of the blast marks. I thought it was I like the dice. I thought it was a clever mechanic, but look how many arguments it caused and how much it slowed. As soon as a blast one came out, it was like, all right, hold on. Everything stopped. I walk over to your side of the table. No. See, it's over here. No, it's over here.
Did you guys use the new terrain rules at all?
Yeah.
Cool.
Really, very happy that they're
good.
That you can interact with the terrain now.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I felt was really missing.
In eighth, big time.
And I mean, GW is putting out these fantastic terrain pieces.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And there wasn't a lot to interact with them. It really didn't matter if you had terrain or you had a pile of books.
And now with the new line of sight blocking rules too,
Yeah.
all those windows and things, they don't matter.
So bottom line, after your game of kind of testing it out and taking the rules for a walk around the block, what did you think?
Loving it.
Really?
Oh yeah. I'm excited to play the game again.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's great.
It's really rekindled that desire. Before we were looking at stuff like I said, Kill Team, and
we
were looking at other games to play because
it just wasn't landing.
Yeah, it just wasn't landing, and now
it's fine.
Yeah, it's looking really good.
Cool.
I'm
Nice.
excited for it.
And I'll be honest, I don't think it's a huge evolution.
It's just like an ultimate tidy up.
Yeah. I mean, and they took the
streamlining.
last few years, saw what the complaints were, saw where they could make improvements, and they said, hey, let's do this. It'll be interesting to see now that it's out in the public's hands, how much things change. Because once you move from the
Especially
play
with big
testers
tournaments.
to,
When those open back up.
Yep. Yeah. And so, we'll see what happens.
And then to top it off, adding Crusade to that.
Crusade
It's
looks
going
so
to be
fun.
so much fun.
Yeah, buddy.
Right.
I'm really looking forward to each codex book coming out with all the specific Crusade rules
stuff
to flush it out and give armies that much
Did you
more
see
character.
the thing for Space Marines?
Yeah, where you could become a dreadnought.
If you lose one, you could change one to dreadnought if you have
pretty
points.
cool.
I'm like, oh yes, character dreadnoughts.
Pretty cool.
I'm in.
I hope they do the same thing with the Eldar. Like a character
Make 'em dreadnoughts?
after so many wounds, a Wraith
becomes the
Lord
Avatar.
becomes a Wraith Lord. Wraith Lord.
That would be cool. All right, Justin, what about you?
Ooh, I got a game in. This was my first 2,000 point game.
It's your good buddy Bob.
Yeah, he's somebody commented, isn't his nickname GBB? Because I always refer to him as my good buddy Bob. So he will be GBB from now on. And he brought I thought he was going to bring his Imperial Fists.
Psych.
And he shows up with the Custodes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, here we go. So I was using my Death Guard, of course. And it was just a brutal game. It was funny. Looking at his army, he had, I think, 19 miniatures, 19 models. And I'm like, but I know what these guys are capable of. And he had the Calexis Assassin as well. So I was going, oh, God. Because my army's not super psychic heavy, but I had...
That thing shuts down psychers.
It does.
So bad.
Yeah. And Assassins do a really good thing for Custodes. Even if you're not going to use them kind of for what their task at hand is, it gives you a body that can just sit on objectives, right? Mm-hmm. And he is only ever hit on 6s or something crazy. So I was like, oh God, this is going to be interesting. I changed my list quite a bit. I did the kind of Rhino Rush thing.
Did you change it based on what he brought? Or did you,
No, not
you
at all.
had your list set up in advance?
I had it set up in my head. Yeah, kind of like an all-comers kind of list, Lots of Plague Marines. I think I had a unit of 9 and then a unit of 7.
Yeah.
And then I had the 5 Blightlord Terminators and 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, and it was a good, strong, solid list, yeah. So I wasn't super worried, but it was funny because I could tell he was a little worried. We were both in a little bit worried state, like, man, how is this going to go? It's kind of like a hammer hitting a hammer, yeah. I guess my army's more of an anvil, but anyhow, this game was very interesting. It started out really cagey. We actually played Overrun mission from the chapter approved kind of tournament pack, and it had 6 objectives on the field, and I kind of just decided, you know what? I'm going to hang out in my backfield and just sit on objectives and kind of let him come at me. And then when he gets midboard, that's where Death Guard kind of excel, right? They're like the 18-inch, you're going to die army.
Yeah.
Let him come at me, and I could kind of fire my mortars at him, whittle him down, and then move up and pop some nasty tricks, right? So that's exactly what happened. He ends up moving up kind of midfield.
Yeah.
He took that Telemon Dread, that big Forge World Telemon Dread, which I think I've only killed once in all of our games. That thing is just, I usually ignore it, and I just say, I'm just going to kill your other dudes.
Just absorb everything else, and yeah.
Yeah. And so this is the first game I actually tried the Death Guard grenade bomb.
Okay.
Which is, it's a 3 command point thing, right? Well, I start out with a Chaos Lord with this bolt pistol. Yeah, it's called Worm Spitter. You hit a target.
Oh, this thing.
You just hit a target, right?
This thing.
And it allows you to reroll all failed wounds on plague weapons. So I'm basically setting the Plague Marines up for the alley-oop with all these grenades they're going to throw, yeah?
He's your laser designator.
Yeah, he's just
all he really is.
Little maggot gun. Boom, you're going to die. I roll 1 to hit. I'm like, no big deal. I'll reroll. But he had burned a stratagem, something Auspex or something from Psychic Awakening. It's 2 command points. And for the rest of that phase, you cannot reroll any dice when attacking that model.
Oh, interesting.
So I was like, that's unfortunate. Okay. Moving, because I was banking on and the Chaos Lord was within range of them, so they could reroll all the ones to hit, right?
Right.
So I'm like, ooh, that's a good stratagem. So I missed with that. And then.
That's a great stratagem.
Oh, I didn't see it coming. I know it's there now. And of course, by this point, I had burned 3 command points because I burned, Veterans of Long War. I burned the 1 command point to make every model throw a grenade. Yeah. And then I burned the other one to make them all throw a grenade within 12 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long story short, I think I did 4 or 5 damage to him, maybe. And that's a unit with that combo that'll pretty much kill anything in the game because of all the rerolls.
Yeah, I was going to say, but limiting your rerolls is hugely powerful.
2 command points well spent. So the Dreadnought lives. But by that point, I had been playing to the mission objective well, so that unit had already got a bunch of objective points.
Yeah.
Those rhinos, oh man, those rhinos with disgustingly resilient.
Yeah.
I think it was turn 3 before a single one took a wound.
Wow.
Because I was just 5 up. It was one of those I'm sorry,
But not sorry.
But not, it's amazing how durable those things are for 1 command point, just to give them that reroll. It's huge. But long story short, that flank crumbled. He pushed a bunch of stuff up. He used those Terminators. They're the ones with the big axes and the crazy guns, right? They can shoot you, they can chop you down, and they have an ability. They deep strike down.
These are Custodes?
They're Custodes Terminators. Okay. Alarian. Okay. I believe they're Alarian Terminators. And they snipe out my Chaos Lord because they can target. They just target him, blow him away. They charge in, strength 10 axes. They end up murdering that whole right flank. A Bloat drone as well, I think, and then they make a long bomb charge into my 5 Blightlord Terminators that were in the middle objective.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, well, that's game. They wipe through the Blightlords like they're nothing because these things are strength 10, flat 2 damage.
Yeah,
and they have 4 attacks each.
You've read the Erudisk Bound book about the Emperor with the Custodes fight. I mean, these guys are they're fighting with half a head missing, right? Yeah. And they keep coming at you. So they play very much like the lore. They're hard to kill. They're elite. Yep.
They murder face. But he kills those Blightlords, and I'm like, son of a... And it was a 10-inch charge or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is game. It's over, And I looked at it, and I was like, I summoned my inner Chris Ross, and I was like, no, I'm going to make you table me, And long story short, the Terminators get wiped out, and he gets super unlucky, I should say. I move my remaining forces and end up bringing that Terminator unit down to 1 man.
Okay.
I fired all my plague mortars at it, fired everything. At one point, he rolled 9 dice and rolled 8 1s and 2s.
Wow.
And was just it had no rerolls. I'm like, did that just happen? And it came down to the very last wound that one of my characters, I think it was my Malignant Plaguecaster. No, it wasn't. It was just he needed a 2-up armor save for that last Terminator to live. Rolls a 1. I wipe him off the objective, and then just all these things happened and went my way. And long story short, I ended up winning the game by 3 points.
Never give up. Never surrender.
And that was what I got from that game. It was I thought it was done for, and turns out
sometimes things just swing your way.
They just swing your way, and you never see it coming. Yeah, never in a million years did I see that Alarian Terminator.
Awesome.
It was a great game. And his dice just failed him at the end, and my dice were hot, and that's why we roll them. Yeah,
you didn't
roll them bones.
You didn't roll like Kiefer.
Oh, I did several times that game, but he just played the game really well, and he was a little, there were some moves he made where I was like, man, why didn't you just get on that objective? You know, because 9th edition, you have to score those objectives. If you get behind in the primary,
you're done.
You're done.
Yeah, because they compound, like they continue to build up.
So like I was way ahead on primary up till about turn 3, and then it just started crumbling. But I was able to, and it helped too that I took the secondary while we stand, we fight. So my 3 models that I declared before the game to live, they all lived.
Oh, interesting.
So I got 15 secondary points just off that, that's a great Death Guard secondary.
I was going to say that's a great secondary specifically for Death Guard, right? Mm-hmm. Who are just so resilient.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, pretty likely these guys will survive it.
Custodes though, they're
neat
brutal.
Army.
It's
a neat army.
Super low model count. I'd love to see you do a Custode army, Caleb, because it's like 20 models and done.
Yep.
And you can just
maybe some cool vehicles.
Murder face. Yeah.
Maybe I'll do them just plain metallics this time.
I would recommend that.
I think that's a good idea.
But such a great game. And thanks again for letting me borrow that alpha gaming table because it's been like triple digits here.
That's the new one too. That's like the most recent one they have. It's working out pretty good.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Gaming and air conditioning versus a 115 degree garage.
It's crazy hot.
It's a big difference.
Yeah. I'm glad the temperatures come down.
Yeah.
It's probably because the sun's blotted out by all the smoke, but
sure.
You know.
But yeah, man, like Caleb said, I'm loving 9th edition, and every time I play it, I just want to play it again.
Nice.
You know, and we finished that game, I think, in about 4 hours, and that was with us just goofing off, having drinks, relaxing. Yeah.
It just seems to flow.
Oh, it does.
The game just seems to flow, and it's not that I don't know. It doesn't have that monotony that you felt where you got one player, it's your turn. All right, hey, I'm gonna go get something to eat. See the kids for
especially with stratagems. But stratagems really help with that.
I feel like 8th edition was like that too, though. Like your rounds go pretty quick.
Yeah.
So
loving it.
7th edition and this is honestly why I've kind of laid off the Horus Heresy stuff. I mean, when 7th edition was out, it was the best way to play that version of 7th edition, even though it wasn't truly 7th edition. But I just enjoy the 8th, the more abstract thing a little bit more.
Sure.
So yeah,
it's murderous, and it's only getting more murderous.
Yeah,
with these weapons rules coming out.
So as a side note, it's funny. I was listening to you tell your story, and you have all these like catchphrases you use all the time.
Oh yeah, guilty.
And one of the ones you always say when you disagree with somebody, but you're like, go ahead and do this. Is you're like, live it, right? So just as a side note. It just reminded me, Doug and I, so we've gotten VR headsets and computers. So we've been playing some online VR games. And one of the ones we're playing is this zombie apocalypse game.
Nice.
And there's this guy, like as Doug and I are kind of making our way like down this freeway and you're searching cars for guns and ammo and stuff. And then zombies are coming at you. And I'm like, Doug, this guy looks like Justin. And Doug like shoots the guy. He's like, live it.
Love it.
We just started dying. It was so funny. It just reminded me as I was listening to you, throw out your various.
Oh, believe me, during that game, I said there was plenty of live it.
Yeah.
When those Terminators were crumbling my entire army. Okay, good.
Oh,
good.
Man. All right. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and then we'll launch into the main topic of the show.
That sounds good.
All right, and we are back, and we're launching into our main segment here. And Justin, I'm going to let you take it away since this was your idea.
Yeah,
So if it crashes and burns, you know who to blame.
Sure.
But if it's awesome, you also know who to blame.
Absolutely. No, the idea just kind of came to my mind. I was sitting there painting, and I'm fortunate enough to have a dedicated, quote unquote studio. It's not its own room; it's in my common room in my place. But just how when you have a system down and everything's so dialed in, you know where everything's at. And how much more efficient that makes you, right? I think a lot of people, they kind of look past that and they just kind of look towards getting to the next model and don't spend the time to kind of organize their space and ensure that they can be as kind of proactive as possible, and as efficient as possible.
Well, I noticed that since I've kind of lost my space, which is not, doing this episode and listening to you guys and seeing the notes and stuff made me start looking also at what options do I have for organizing paints? Like I use a Tablewar case that I put all my paints in, and I'm like, I could be more efficient than this. And so having lost my space where I paint
Yeah.
has given me some time to at least think about, well, when I return to this, what do I want to make it look like?
Absolutely, yeah. And the more Caleb and I started talking about this, we realized that it would be good to kind of break this into 3 separate kind of rough categories, which fall nicely into 40K. So we came up with Fast Attack, which is basically for people like in a situation like yourself where you don't really have your studio kind of it's set up, but you don't have lighting in here.
Right.
So you're having to kind of move. And there's a lot of people out there that are in studios, 1-bedroom apartments, or just have a lot of kids or whatever the case may be. And they need to have
An isolated place.
They have to bring their things out, get their hobby time in, and then put it back in a nice safe safe landing zone, if you would. And so that's the painter on the move. And then we broke the next one into elite, which is the elite choice. People that are actually traveling. They're going to classes. They're going to conventions. They're going to their local games workshop or friendly local game store to get their painting sessions in. What does that look like? What are some tips and tricks to making sure that you have what you need and you're good to go?
Okay.
Yeah. And that'll kind of fall into, are you flying? Are you driving? Which we'll get into.
Yeah.
And last but not least, of course, heavy support. And that's for the people that are fortunate enough to have a dedicated studio.
That's the section for me. So I'll just sit here quietly while you guys talk until you get to that section.
Sounds good. But that's the basic idea. And hopefully you'll get some little tips and tricks on how to be more efficient, more organized, and get more painting done. Fight
Awesome.
that war on gray plastic. Yeah.
Okay. So let's kick it off with your Fast Attack.
Yeah. Fast Attack. I think the key thing is having a nice portable paint station. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the crucial thing. And there's a lot of articles that I saw while I was kind of doing show research of people that actually build these things themselves out of anything from wood, optionally, or cardboard. Mm-hmm. You can actually, if you're on a budget, you can make a pretty decent little thing out of a cardboard box and some creativity. Of course,
some glitter,
bedazzle that sucker. Of course, Games Workshop, they sell the little lap tray.
Yeah.
So you could paint on the train. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't
say yeah again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I use my strengths, right? So I can paint. I can paint what everybody needs. I don't know if I can talk about it.
Well, I hope so. I've been to your classes, man. You don't.
All right,
shut
so
up
this is
during
just going to
those.
be me talking for the next 3 hours. Buckle up.
I've seen a few options that are out there too. If you're not looking at spending like a lot of money, going down to thrift stores. Your what do you call those, consignment stores, stuff like that.
Yep.
I've seen people that have modified a trunk and used that.
Oh, interesting.
Suitcases. There was one guy that I guess this came under the travel side of it, but he had this whole suitcase that was set up and it was geared with lights in it and all this stuff. And that you could put all your stuff in and slide it right under a bed,
right,
or slide it into a closet, stuff like that. So there are some options. It's mainly about confining that your paint area, because usually the people that need the Fast Attack, they have limited space, or that's exactly it. They have limited space. They don't have an extra bedroom that they can set up, or a studio apartment.
So this isn't me where I have space, but I currently can't paint here. So what I've just been doing is I have these large plastic trays that are like a tray you'd get at a fast food place or something.
Yep.
Remember I don't know if they even do that. I don't eat at fast food places anymore. But a cafeteria tray basically. And so I take what I need, I go out to where the light is, and then I just work on that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But what you're talking about is, but what if your whole system is moving around?
Yeah, because you don't want to be having to. I think it starts too of the actual having a good landing zone, right? Of okay, where am I going to put this tray back? But a lot of people have maybe a little spare room in their closet, right?
Right.
Or just a garage where you could even buy your nail polish racks or whatever, and have all your paints and everything. Everything's displayed. It's all ready to go. So when you're starting your project, you're not rummaging through a box of paints, yeah?
Right.
You can go pick the colors you want, put those on your tray, and away you go. And then you're done. You can put them back. But I think the key thing too is making sure that you have a safe spot for this thing to go. I just saw somebody post on Facebook that their cat knocked over their entire desk.
Yeah.
And just everything everywhere, right? Everybody has animals, little kids, have a safe spot, a dedicated spot, whether it's under a bed and it's safe and not
secure spot.
A secure spot, yeah.
Yeah, and it's talking about efficiency for
Yeah.
this. You know,
Okay.
the point of this is efficiency. If you're having to take all your paints and put them into a drawer, they get mixed up. Then you got to dig through that drawer and figure out what paints you're using.
Which is really a huge barrier to just getting started. Right? It's hard
It
enough.
wastes so much time.
It's hard enough for me to say, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to paint these 10 sisters. Okay, I got to dig through all this stuff.
Yep.
By the time I get set up, I'm like, now I've exerted all my motivation getting to this
Or even a
stage.
foam solution where you have all your paints, angled down so you can see the colors really easily. It closes right up.
I've been jealous of watching Caleb come to, classes, and then I look and you've got like the setup for all your paints where everything's, face down so you can see, oh, these are the colors. But in a foam thing where you can just pull them out and you're good to go. Like you're very efficient when you come to that position. I've been jealous often of your setup.
And that efficiency spills through with the hobby, especially, when you're trying to get armies out. We all subscribe to that 1 hour a night type idea, right?
Yep.
If you can put in 1 hour a night, you can get an army done relatively rapidly.
Yeah.
But if you're having to put all your models away and wrap them up and
20 minutes of your 1 hour
exactly
is just getting going.
Right. And then another 20 minutes of roll up. You got 20 minutes of painting for your 1 hour. So that's what we're kind of talking about.
That's an interesting
is how to be more efficient with your painting. And so that's where we talk about is the first thing is you need to have that controlled area that you're going to have, whether it's that lap tray, whether it's a foam bag, the trunk, whatever. But you want to be able to set it up in a system that'll be quick to look at it. You're going to sit down. The paints that you need are going to be there. Your brushes that you need. The model that you're halfway through painting is going to be right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can sit down and actually spend 90 to 95% of your time painting and stuff like that.
The other nice thing this is good for too is that even if you have like a dedicated studio, having a portable type system like that, you can kind of not feel like you're neglecting your family, too much. You can still bring that tray out and watch a movie with the family and clip sprues and stuff, and you're still in the same room with them and chatting and yada yada. Yeah. So I found that helped a lot. I mean, for years I used that Games Workshop, the MDF one that they sold that had the two cutouts for water cups, so you could have one for your metallics, one for your regular paints, little notches so you could put your brushes in there. It was a great product. I wish they still sold it, but you could really easily make one of those yourself. Yeah,
I think there's even some companies that make those or similar.
Yeah, there's a couple of MDF companies out there that you can get the lap style.
Yep. And I can't imagine they're too expensive either.
No. So that that's your first goal that you're looking for is you want to make sure you get something nice and sturdy that you can set up everything. And then you need to be able to organize all your paints and everything, right? All the tools.
See, this is where I run into the issue. So my kind of paint storage and transport solution was Aaron Lovejoy at Las Vegas Open. I think I was there with Doug Johnson at one point, and Aaron had a mid-sized tableware case, but instead of the trays for magnetizing things, he had 3 drawer trays in there. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's awesome. And so I convinced Doug to sell me one because they don't actually sell them like that. And I got it. And that's where I stole, the bottom one has all my tools and paint brushes and all that. And then the mid one has, I think the GW paints because they're all the same height, and then the top one has like odd shaped paints and some GW paints and that kind of thing. But to your point, Caleb, I mean, it's kind of inefficient. I've kind of realized over the period of time, I'm like, oh, now I need blue. And I'm like, oh, what's the blue, and I did go through and like kind of organize them. So like all the blues are together and all the, but it's not the best of systems. Do you have any like suggestions there?
I think if you're using Games Workshop paints, they do have those little plastic trays that your paints actually kind of clip into.
Yeah.
And that would be kind of handy just for having like all your blues in one, all your reds in the other.
I see.
I think anything you do that avoids just having all those paints together, and because your mind looks at that and it's just you're just wasting time. Yeah. So you have to find a way to organize them by hue. Yeah, I think is the main thing, and that's just going to make you so much more efficient. The foam, I think the foam is probably the best option. Yeah. Just having everything in a case.
Yeah, yes and no. The foam also takes up a lot of space.
It does.
It takes up a lot of space too. So, there's a lot of different options. Tupperware containers work really
Actually,
well.
that's not a bad idea. And some of them clip together even on top of each other, right? There's plastic containers you can get that literally you can make a stack of them and they all clip. Like you could organize by color there and be fairly efficient and space-wise. Those you could get at Target or anywhere.
Yeah, and when it comes down to painting efficiently, we kind of talked about this in the break a little bit, is limiting options.
Yeah.
Decide your color schemes, get your paints that you're going to use, and have those ready in front of you when you're going to start painting. And that's where that tray.
And that doesn't mean your whole scheme, like every paint you're going to use on this model. If I'm sitting down, let's use my sister as an example, right? I'm going to initially do reds on them. So, okay, I need all the shades of red that I'm going to use in whatever wash or ink or whatever I'm going to use at that point, or that I'm going to use at that step. I just need those. I don't need that plus the gold and the white that I'm going to do. No, I need this and I need that, the face, no, just the reds. That's all I'm going to need because theoretically I'm spending an hour. Chances are I'm never going to make it to the whites.
Exactly.
Anything at that point, just stick with what you're doing at that moment, right?
Exactly. Also, a crucial thing too, I think, is like having a plan before you just sit down and doing that. What am I going to get to? Kind of like throughout your day. I'm sure we all do a little daydreaming about the hobby while we're at work.
I never do. I'm highly focused.
Never, right? But just have a plan.
There's no way I'm clipping models during Zoom meetings.
No, you would never. Yeah, I've never cleaned mold lines in my van either. Never. But definitely having that plan, yeah. And to your point of just like, okay, I'm working on these 5 sisters. My plan for tonight, before the wife or husband starts yelling at me, is just to get that red done. So, like you said, I'm not gonna grab every paint, the whole thing. I'm just gonna grab those reds I need, and that's gonna be my mission objective.
Okay.
Yeah. So just having a little bit of forethought. I mean, you don't have to write it all out or anything, but just have a little thought before you sit down. What am I trying to accomplish with this session? Can go a long way. And I think also a good tip and trick is because if you're doing this fast attack thing, your time is limited. Have a hairdryer handy.
Okay.
Just a cheap hairdryer, so you're not sitting around waiting for paint to dry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good tool to have anyways, but especially I think for fast attack, you're going to be that much more productive not waiting for that paint to dry.
We're watching this movie and I'm sitting there turning on a hairdryer on and off.
Sorry, babe. That happens to me all the time. I'll be sitting there dremeling. My wife's like, really?
Right now?
Right now?
It's the climax of the show.
Turn it up louder. You got a good home theater, babe. Turn it up louder. Who's battling each other.
So yeah, I think that's important, is to have a good storage system for your paints that's semi-transportable.
Okay. And that can isolate hues.
Yep. The next important thing to have, and probably one of the most important things to have, is good lighting.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, I know.
It needs to be portable.
Yeah.
Because you have the tray and stuff like that. If you're trying to paint from a desk lamp or something like that, it becomes a little difficult.
Total eye strain. Yeah.
So, and the nice thing now is there's so many options out there. If you get on Amazon and look at it with, the infusion of LED lamps and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's nice. Before, when I first started into the hobby, the go-to were the OT lights.
Yeah.
With the daylight bulbs. But you were talking like $80 for a lamp.
Yeah.
They were pretty spendy. They're pretty limited. But now, I love some of the new LED lights, and you pick them up on Amazon for like $20. You can get the ones that clamp on. Me personally, for my little portable painting or building station, I really don't paint unless I'm in the studio. But if I'm building or something portable, I use one of those old little like tea carriers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little square box. I like it because it's got raised edges.
So nothing's going to
can fall
slip
off.
off.
When I'm clipping all my models, they don't go flying everywhere and you lose a head down the cushions of the seat or something like that. It keeps it in that little box. And then the lamp will clamp right to the edge of that and everything like that. So you want to make sure that you got a good lamp.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because it makes a clamp. Right. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super handy.
So you want to make sure that you have a good light. Don't strain your eyes and stuff like that. Because that can make a very unfun.
Nothing will show you how much light helps than if you go from like a poorly lit area and you're trying to work in that, and then suddenly like you get a good light, like somebody flips on the lights, or and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
It is truly, I think, one of the number one things that will improve painting
Big time.
is getting a good light.
And then having some way to stabilize your water cup too, so you don't have any whoops-a-daisies. That's also huge. Whether it's an MDF solution, again, that the water cup fits into, very, very important, as well as, something to, if you're one of those painters that paints out of the pot, shame on you. Just something to stabilize your paints. There's lots of solutions out there for it.
Games Workshop also makes that water pot that they have is actually quite good.
I was just going to mention that. That's one of the
of those tool sets.
I know they're expensive. But
probably too expensive, for what you're getting, but they are pretty good.
I don't know if I've seen this. Is it super stable?
Yeah, it's just the base is
thicker. The base is wider than the top.
The opening is probably about 2.5 inches. The base is probably a solid 3.5 inches.
Okay.
So it's really stable. It holds well. And then for those paints, the ones that paint from the pot, and we all know the pictures of the spilled wash. Right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Those little triangle that you were talking about, the little triangle paint holders where it just holds 3 paints.
Yeah.
Oh, they're incredible.
Handy.
I bought like 20 of those things, and they're scattered throughout my studio.
Yeah, and if you don't want to use those, if you're a little on the, I guess, cheaper side, a little blue putty, a little poster putty. Stick that
it
sucker
to the
down.
bottom. Yeah. Done.
Easy.
Done.
You don't want to spill that paint all over your nice dining room table.
I use a mug.
There you go.
It's wide. It's, that thing doesn't tip over.
And this
really well.
thought just actually came to me too, is for our classes, we use the little pee-pee poo-poo pads for puppies,
Yeah.
Put one of those down.
Artist pads.
Artist pads, right.
It's interesting. Yeah, my dog's an artist.
Protect the table you're working on. Don't get super glue and stuff all over your nice dining room table. Throw something down.
Yeah, those work really well. We have a bunch of them here after you guys came here and did a training class here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we pull those out all the time.
Another handy product, it looks like it's coming out, is that Studio X, a little portable.
Did you back that?
I did not. I did not. That thing
did.
looks pretty cool.
I backed it just because I wanted to be supportive of,
Dave Taylor and all that.
But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool.
Pretty handy, especially that's like perfect for going to like a gaming store.
I think the Kickstarter's done, but I think you can still be a late backer on that. I'll put a link to that in the show notes, but I did back that thing. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And then, I don't know, we're kind of rewinding down on the fast attack.
Yeah.
But one thing that I was thinking about after our discussion was one of the big problems that we have with the hobby, and I know when I started out, was your spouse.
Oh yeah.
And having paints and models and stuff like that spread everywhere, and sometimes they might feel that it's a little unsightly.
Yeah.
So it might
a little cluttery.
Yeah, it might benefit and make your hobby easier by having some of those controlled spaces. And when you're in a limited space area, you don't have that room.
You're sharing it with other people. You need to be considerate of that too. Yeah.
And there's a lot of options. Again, I like to talk about going back to that thrift store. When I first got into this hobby, what I got was an old typing desk. It might have been a sewing machine desk. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it was just a desk where the front face kind of folded down. Mm-hmm. I think they make ones that have like a roller cover, and then it looks like a normal piece of furniture. But you can open that up and all your stuff is open right there. So if you don't necessarily need just to be able to paint with that laptop tray, you have enough room for a little desk, but it's in a shared area. It's in the living room or it's in the kitchen or something like that. Maybe go look at something like that. One of those armoires where the doors close and open, something like that.
I know Doug picked up that scrapbooking one.
That super expensive
one. Yeah. So whatever's within your budget. Yeah. I think there's an option or a solution for you.
The other thing I've been playing around with is makeup storage solutions. There's some crossover there that works pretty well.
Big time.
You can get some clear drawers and things that make it easy to see what you're working with, so that they're easily accessible. And makeup brushes can substitute in paintbrushes, and they can store in those areas. So I mean, there's some really innovative solutions that are very, very affordable.
Big time. And if you're fortunate enough to live around one of those container stores, those things are pretty cool.
Yeah.
You get lots of ideas just walking through there.
Yeah. And, well, yeah. Okay. I think we've hit up fast
so.
attack. So moving on to your elite.
Elite. So you're the traveling painter. I think I'll let Caleb talk about it. We'll start with flying, the big dog. You're flying to a CK Studios class, a convention.
The first thing to be aware of is obviously the restraints that you have with what items you can travel with when you're flying.
On the plane. What you can carry on the plane. Right,
carry onto the plane. And, we have some funny stories about it. There was one time where Kat carried an entire complete set of paints on her carry-on. And, the TSA agent opened up and said, "Oh, cool, paint," and let her fly. And then there's other times where I've walked in with like 2 little bottles and they're like shutting down half the airport because I have 2 bottles. So be aware of
What's
that.
interesting is, okay, so you're limited in traveling in the U.S. There's a limit on, I don't remember what it is, 2 liters. Or,
right.
I don't remember what the...
1 quart.
1 quart.
1 quart bag, and then each bottle has to be a liter or small, or I'm sorry, a milliliter or milliliter or 2 milliliter. Yeah, you can have individual packages that are like 2 milliliters or smaller, and all of them together have to fit into a quart size bag. It's very limited. It's very
so I can't have 100 small paints.
No.
Mm-mm. Oh, okay.
It has to fit into a
quart size
bag.
Thought I found a loophole.
No.
Not so much. They've closed that loophole. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So bearing in mind, you can only take a certain amount on the plane itself. So what do you guys do?
I tend to just make sure that I check my paints. That's the easiest way to do it is check your paints. Tons of travel options for that, which are nice. There's a lot of bag manufacturers out there that make the foams that are designed to fit the different paints.
Okay.
They can be standing up, they can be laying down. There's options for 140 paints. There's an option for 80, 60, whatever, something like that. So be mindful though. Some of those bags don't fly very well with checked bags.
Yeah.
So if your case is like an aluminum sided case, it's probably not going to fly very well.
No.
Yeah, it's going to get dinged up.
So
and this is why this is one of those things that I say, like, for just transporting an army, like the tableware case is the best if you're locally traveling, if you can put it in a car. But that's why I go anytime I travel to Adepticon, wherever, Nova, I take my KR case because it's like, it's a hassle to pull the guys in and out of foam at a table, but that thing's durable and can go on the plane. Whereas that tableware case is just not.
They're just going to tip and break and
yeah.
And then what we were able to do for the CK Studio classes, I also got just some material and we made a sleeve case, a bag that goes over the top of our carrying case.
Okay.
And that way it'll save zippers and stuff like that from getting hooked onto the belt loaders and stuff
ripping
like that.
Something.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if you do have like an old sleeping bag cover or something like that works really good.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you just slide it right over the top of it. The airlines really don't have a problem with that. Man, as far as the checking stuff, just want to make sure that your paints are secured.
Is there any impact to it being down in the hold of a plane? Because temperatures can drop there, right? I don't know.
It's for such a limited.
You've never had a problem with that.
I've never had a problem. I've never had paint.
And you've flown all over the place. You've flown to England.
Yeah.
Without a problem.
Yeah, we haven't had any problems. Where the problem comes is be mindful if you have squeeze bottles, make sure that the lids are secure and tight. Give everything a nice little squeeze.
Yep.
If you're flying with pots, what I like to do is take a piece of masking tape and just wrap the lid with masking tape.
Okay.
You've
had them pop open before.
Oh yes.
The pressure.
I've had some messes. Yes. Cause the air pressure. We've had some messes because a lid wasn't secured. So a little bit of masking tape.
Okay.
To hold on those. I know that a lot of people are using the new Monument paints. Those pressurize for some reason. And when you open the cap on them, it will geyser paint out.
Yeah.
So a little trick to that is if you travel with those, don't open with the spin part of the top.
Like the sriracha top?
Right, yeah. If it's a sriracha top, don't spin the sriracha side. Take the entire cap off. Grab those threads, and then it
relieves the pressure
without blowing the paint everywhere. So a little pro tip right there is if you have those monument paints and you're traveling, even if you're driving and you're going to drive from low elevation to high elevation or something like that, you'll have the same issues. So be aware of that.
Yep. Paintbrushes, make sure you put those little brush covers over them.
Yeah.
I always keep those. Like when I keep the little, I don't know what you call it. It's just like a
little brush protector.
That they usually come with.
And it's nice to have a container that you're going to put all of your brushes in. Don't just throw them into your backpack or throw them into the bottom of your bag. I mean, obviously, there's some things that are common sense, but some people don't. Little containers are nice. For a while I was making really nice little brush boxes that held them, and I love traveling with those things. Pencil box is great.
It's perfect for it.
Pencil box, just, you put all your brushes in there.
Usually, I just get like a little Plano, screw organizer container boxes, and I'll put you can section them off. Usually there's like a sleeve that you stick in. So I section off one for, here's where the paintbrushes go. And since they have the tip protector on it, it's fine that it kind of jars around in there a little bit.
And you could tape them all together too. Just a little bit of tape
if you didn't
around
want
them.
Yeah. And then I can put like clippers and all that stuff in it, and it mold, hobby knives, that kind of stuff. Again, you have to check all that.
Now, a little trick for hobby knives. They will confiscate your hobby knife if it's
not in a checked bag. Yeah.
But a little trick to that is take your blade from your hobby knife and flip it around and slide the pointed part of the blade into the handle and tighten it down so the square is sticking out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is a good practice.
They won't.
After using a hobby knife, period. I always pop mine back in that way, even when I'm leaving them on the table or in my toolbox, because, you don't want to reach in, grab it.
Tip will chip off too. But you'll cut yourself. Yep. Actually cut myself last night.
Not fun.
And the X-ray machine will not, won't target those.
Yeah, I've never had a hobby blade confiscated ever.
Oh, dude, I've had so many hobby. We get to class and all the hobby knives are gone. I had one class where we needed hobby knives for every student, and I bought 18 of them, and they took all 18.
Oh,
yeah, because I had them, with the cap and the blade sitting forward
instead of
so
either doing it. But you're probably, again, this is something you're probably just better off checking.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you're limited and you can't check stuff, and if you are flying with just the quart bag of paints and all your stuff is being carry on, you know. So that's a little trick right there is switch that blade around.
Turns out bringing a razor blade onto an airplane is shunned.
Yeah.
They don't like it.
Weird.
Why.
It's weird.
The next thing is lights.
By the way, we're recording this on 9/12.
Right.
Just
that was a close one.
Yeah.
Could have been 9/11. But you were saying about
for lights. When you're traveling with light, you are going to need a light. You want a nice portable light.
Yeah.
Try to avoid those lights that have the big batteries in them. Some of the OT lights are like a big rechargeable battery. If you travel with that light, take it out of your bag and take that through the X-ray machine by itself.
Okay.
Because if it's in your bag, it's going to flag. They're going to they're going to make you unpack your whole bag, stuff like that. Again, there's a lot of options for nice little LED lights now that they don't even need a battery for them. You can plug in a little USB type plug for them.
Those collapsible ones that we have are great. Dude,
I love those collapsible
it
ones.
weighs nothing.
What's it called?
There's like no brand on it. They're like there's no information on it whatsoever.
They're so hard to find. Kat's like just the magician for finding them. And I know people get frustrated. They're like, "Hey, can you send me a link?"
That
to
thing's
that?
so
like,
cool.
No,
Yeah,
I'm so glad you guys brought it up.
We'll do some more research and we'll get back to you.
Okay.
In the show notes, just say "CCat."
Her email is
email. Cats, what's your email over there? I'll just
So yeah, you want to make sure that you got a good light that you can travel with. Again, weight plays a big part. Your carry-on bag, your checked bag, be aware of that. Your checked bag cannot exceed 50 pounds or you're going to be paying
a lot.
A lot.
And paint is liquid.
And paint is liquid.
It ends up adding up, actually.
Compressors, paints, like all that weight adds up.
Yeah. So
every time I go to pick up that the Tablewar case that carries all my paints. I'm always like, good God, this thing is really heavy. And it's not that big of a case. It's just heavy.
Yep.
I mean, we're always playing that balance with the CK Studios rigs that we got to carry because I'm usually at 49.9 pounds. When we're getting onto the
You've
flies.
got it nailed.
Especially when you're going to a convention and you're like, how much of this stuff can I fit? And how much is going in the dumpster from the swag bags?
That's exactly it.
Coming back from, when you get a big...
I try to be good. I just try to get a little toy for my kid whenever I travel, and I just can't do it.
My favorite thing with this now is I just go over and get my stuff from Forge World.
Yeah.
And then I don't...
Have them ship it home.
I
don't have to worry about it.
It's
Yeah.
That's
free
what I
shipping.
do. Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, while you're shipping that, would you mind throwing these in the box?
Exactly. And I think kind of going back to the very beginning too, is if you're going to be getting on a flight, just have a checklist and check it 3, 4, 8 times, make sure, if you forget a color or whatever, no big deal. Right. But if you're forgetting crucial things like your air hose or whatever the case may be, like just have that list, check it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're...
Which is actually a good strategy anytime you're traveling
For
with
everything.
an army. Make a checklist, go down each model. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten somewhere and be like, I forgot X.
Don't do it the night before.
No. Hopefully not.
I've never done that. Do it like a day or two before.
Okay.
Make sure you're not tired. Make sure you have everything you need to succeed.
Yeah.
Boom.
So, if you're not necessarily flying, you're not traveling long distances. For
You've got a lot
painting,
more
but
flexibility.
You have a lot more flexibility, but you still want to plan accordingly.
Yeah.
When I go down and I do like local paint nights and we're going to go down and paint and I'll have my project and stuff like that. I want to make sure I've got a good container that's going to hold everything. So in case something happens in the vehicle or something, everything's not getting destroyed. My favorite for that, for a little short paint session, is I love that little Monument bag, the one that Monument Games made.
Okay.
You seen that?
I haven't.
It's a little zipper bag. It's a lot like all the other transportation, but it's just a little, I don't know, 10 by 10 little square bag. And he's made foams inside. He's got foams that will fit the paints and stuff like that. And he's got foams that are pluck foams that you can make for your models, et cetera, et cetera. The little plastic cases that'll fit in there to put all your odds and ends in.
Excellent.
And then it's got a nice little open spot on the top that zips open, and it's got little slots that you can slide your paintbrushes in and stuff like that.
I keep hearing you bring up Monument paints. Are you a big fan of them as well right now?
I'm not as big as Justin right now.
Okay.
I'm still in the honeymoon phase.
I am really enjoying. He's got specific colors that are just incredible.
He has
that
a
jade
go bag. That's what you're talking about. His go bag.
Yeah. The go bag. I love that. I would like to see it just a touch bigger, but I mean that's just my little personal opinion there. But we want to make sure that you got some kind of a bag that you're going to contain all your stuff in. Don't go down to the hobby store with a grocery bag with all of your stuff in it and spread all your stuff across the table, because it's just kind of impolite. You want to make sure, especially now, you want to make sure that you're confining your sprawl when you go down to the hobby stores. So try to limit what you're bringing, but you still need to bring the essentials. You need to bring your paint, to have a nice organization system for it, whether it's that foam bag, whether it's a little, nail polish thing that you carry or whatever, something like that. Make sure you have a nice light.
Even toolboxes could be really handy for that too.
Yeah.
With a little bit of foam added in. You'll have that tray on top that you could put your hobby knife, clippers, yada yada in, and then just get creative with a little piece of foam down at the bottom.
Bring an extension cord. I can't tell you how many times you get down there and it's hard on the store to have to supply a bunch of extension cords and stuff like that. So bring your stuff so that you're not impeding other people when you're painting it.
Yeah, and don't forget the light as well, because the hobby store lights, sometimes are awesome, sometimes not so much.
Okay.
Portable light that's lightweight that you can plug right in and be good to go.
But it does offer you quite a bit of more flexibility. As we said, you don't have to check anything on a plane. You can carry a larger contingent of stuff fairly easily.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about your, does that wrap it up for your elite section?
I think so.
I think so.
So.
What's next?
What's next, Caleb? What do we got? Heavy support?
Heavy support.
Heavy support.
Ooh, This is the dream right here.
The studio, right?
This is the part I want to talk about.
And this is what everybody dreams of, right? Okay. Especially come in here, you look in the Astronomicon, and it's just like
it's destroyed.
Oh, yeah, well, it is, but it's still. The artwork on the walls, and
it's a great space.
It's a great space. And
so you see where I typically paint is a folding table over by the window,
which cracks me up because you have so much space there. You got a little folding table over there.
I know. But you know what? Since the Astronomicon's having some repairs made to it starting at the end of this month, let's say I want to get serious about setting up a paint area of this room that works out well as a paint studio area.
Design is important.
Okay.
Think about what you want.
I want my models to look like yours, Caleb. Unassembled and in pieces. I've already accomplished that.
Oh, that's easy.
That's super easy.
You just pack them up in a box and send them to me.
But in all seriousness, I want a well-lit area. I want to organize my stuff almost in a permanent way.
Yep.
I think lighting, start with lighting, because you had some good points on lighting, Caleb, when we were talking about this.
Yeah, lighting is super important. Usually when you have your own studio, you're going to look at giving a substantial amount of time over to painting. So you want to make sure that first you have good ergonomics. Your lighting is it doesn't sound like it's ergonomics, but it's really important. If you're constantly trying to hunch over, and
that's what's going to happen. If your lighting's bad, you're finding yourself getting closer and closer to the model, hunching over. Your back hurts more. As soon as that bright light comes on, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is much easier to see. I can't tell you how many times you find yourself in a situation where you're painting in poor lighting and you don't realize it, and then actual good lighting shows up, or my wife will be like, well, let me get you a light. And then she brings it, you're like, oh, this is so much easier.
Yeah, eye strain it's
a serious thing.
Yeah.
Especially my eyes, which have gotten, as I've gotten older, are like I'm having difficulty looking at really, really tiny stuff up, even with glasses on.
Yeah. And so what I found, this is going to be unique to most people. I think that we have unique needs that people develop and stuff like that. But some of the standards that are going to be really important is going to be, one, you need a good work light. You're going to need that solid work light. Those travel lights probably aren't going to cut it in a big light area. You will start to fatigue on that. So invest in something really nice. I love a lot of those big hoop lights and stuff that you see a lot of people building.
Yeah, the arc.
Because
the arc lights.
The reason the arc is so nice is it creates more ambient light. And ambient light is really important for the function of your eyes, for how they focus and stuff like that. If you've ever been to a convention, I love talking about conventions when you're painting. You've got this horrible overhead light.
Yeah.
The light in.
Yeah. It's always the fluorescent bulbs up in the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get your work light and you sit under and you paint your work light and your eyes fatigue. And what'll happen is you'll notice that you can't even see your model under your bright light. Because what's happening is you don't have ambient light. We need ambient light for our eyes to function properly.
Interesting.
So you don't need just a direct light that's on your model where you're painting. You need an ambient light that helps kind of develop.
Otherwise, it's just going to wash it out, right?
It just washes out and your eyes fatigue. And once your eyes fatigue, you can't see. You could be looking straight at your model and it's just almost a black blur because your eyes just fatigue. And
it can affect color choices as well and everything. Yeah.
After 3 days of paint classes, your eyes are just done when you go to convention.
Okay.
So ambient light is very important. That's where those loop lights are really nice. What I found, and I kind of lucked across this when I had my studio out as that extension to the garage where I remodeled the garage. We put this great big giant, it was like, 20,000 lumen light up in the ceiling, and all of a sudden all my painting was so much easier because I had so much ambient light that it really lit the model, and I didn't rely on just my work light to focus.
And that was behind you.
It was a bit behind, above and behind. So don't skimp out. When you do your ceiling lights in your studio, make sure that you put some pretty decent lights up there too. Yeah. Not just your work light. Like I said, the loop light helps. Multiple light sources. When you do multiple light sources, try to make them all the same temperature.
Yeah.
By temperature, what I'm talking about is the color of the light is the value of the color of the light is a temperature number, and it'll be like
1000 or yeah.
Right. Try to keep everything in that one range of color of temperature. Because if not, again, you're going to get that eye fatigue when you have yellow lights with blue lights and stuff like that. Not only is it really hard to see the colors, but it just kills your eyes.
Right.
So the convention or the commission painters out there all know what I'm talking about. Is when you're crushing through an army and you've been painting for 16 hours, your eyes are just done. And it's usually the fatigue is coming from light. So make sure that the light is
just creates less strain on your eyes.
Yeah.
All right.
And when you're painting for that long on a cheap chair, your butt and back is also done. So invest in a good chair. That's huge.
You just bought a good chair.
Yeah, and I was using a traditional kind of desk one, kind of like this, not as nice, but yeah, the difference. I jumped to a gaming chair with like the lower lumbar support.
Yeah,
and it's just a game changer. I mean, I literally can sit there and paint for hours and hours and hours and never get that lower back pain.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure you're comfortable. Yeah, you have that dedicated studio, that heavy support lifestyle. Invest in a good chair.
Okay.
And you can get a really decent, awesome gaming chair for $200-$300.
Yeah.
It's not gonna kill you.
It's an investment, but it's going to help you.
Yep.
Okay.
and desk height.
This is actually what I was going to ask you about.
Desk height is really important. If you have the opportunity to get a custom made desk, you're going to get a desk built instead of just purchasing one. Get it built a couple inches taller than your standard desk height.
Okay.
Because what that's going to do is going to help raise your painting area up above. Brings your body up, brings your neck up. Also, it helps to collect the light again a little bit better. But if you can get into a more upright sitting position instead of a hunched position, that's really going to help.
It's less of you looking down at the model and more looking at the model, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And that's what I did when in my studio. I built my own desks, so I was able to build my desk height. And I built it at, I want to say, your standard desk is at something like 28 inches.
Sounds about
28 or 29 inches, and mine's like at 33.
Okay.
I want to say. I'm not positive. I mean, don't quote me on those numbers.
Measure my situation here, Justin.
We're measuring Carl's situation right now, and it's about 29.
All right.
Yeah.
Add an inch to it for this desk. But that's what I'm painting on that height table right there. So you're saying 32-ish would be. But it's going to be dependent upon the person. And one thing you could do is you can get a sit-stand desk. You can elevate
I'm considering buying one of those standing desks.
Yeah, I've been kind of looking. And a good place to get those kinds of things?
Like a hardware store?
Not even that. You have, in particular here in the Bay Area or anywhere right now where you have businesses that have these things, a lot of these companies, because of our current situation, are closing or are moving to work from home models for some of their, or paring down the size of their offices. And you will find this stuff for sale, used for sale on sites, and you can get them at a very much
I seem to remember
cost.
Lars like posting to our little private group that
their company was doing something. Yeah. And so you can find some of these things used,
for a real good steal.
Or don't buy it new. Go to a like there's these warehouse office stores, not like, and I don't mean like Office Depot. I mean like literally a warehouse that just houses like cubicle walls and those kinds of things, but they are also selling office furniture. You can find it on Craigslist. You can find it on that kind of stuff. And you can probably get a good deal on a sit-stand desk. That might be a really good.
I've really been considering getting one.
I hadn't thought about it until this discussion because I keep looking over at where my table is, right? And one of the problems with the Astronomicon where I have it is like open wall space where I would build like racks and those kinds of things are all taken up with bookshelves and stuff. But I could also empty out that corner where I have those 3 IKEA Detolf cases and make that a whole painting area. But then where am I going to store all those?
I like creating L-shaped.
I do too. I do too.
It gives you a lot more usable space. The last point on the desk things is if you are on a budget and you don't have access to a standing desk or you can't afford to, you don't want to spend the money on that.
Yeah.
You can't build your own desk, something like that. A box works really good. You can build a little shelf out of some wood. You can, create a little box. I've been threatening to build Kat's box for her for a while now. She wants a nice custom cherry wood one done. But all you need is just a box, something that will elevate your work area about 3-4 inches.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So they would go on top of a table that
you
you're
just
using.
set it right on top of the desk, and that's going to raise your work area up that way also. So that's another little cheat that you can use. But helping move your work area up a little bit will make a big difference.
Very cool.
Okay. So let's talk about, can we move into paint storage a little bit?
Sure.
When you have that like full on studio situation, what are you using? Like, Caleb, how is your paint stored at your studio?
So I'm using a rack style, actually not a rack, I call it a shelf style. Imagine spice racks, the ones that hang up on the wall.
Yeah.
Something like that. They're just much larger. I made those and built the little.
You built them custom?
Yeah, the little shelves, and they're like an inch and a half thick.
Okay.
They stick off the wall about 1.5 inches. They hang up above my work area. It's a great benefit, but it can also be a little bit of a detriment because it allows you to store a lot of paint.
Okay. So how's that a bad thing?
And sometimes you can get overwhelmed with how many paints you have and you don't know where to start.
Okay.
So we have some tips about that. Are we going to talk about that here in a minute, or?
Absolutely.
All right.
You take it away.
I mean, I agree with Caleb. I mean, the paint paralysis can be real because you have all that space, right? Dedicated space. You don't have to worry about packing it up. And before you know it, you're sitting there looking at 48 hues of red.
I am amazed at how much paint I actually own, and I don't own nearly as much as you guys. And it's funny because every now and then, like, I look at it, and when I went through and organized my paints by hue a little bit, even though now they're all messed up again, I took some and I was just like, well, I'm going to put these in this plastic container because I'm not using, or they're duplicates or whatnot. And I'm like, how much money have I spent on paint?
Yeah, it's best not to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, don't think about that.
So you definitely have to control kind of the amount of paints that you have. And there are some little tips and tricks for that too. And we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. Another great option for storing paints, and I kind of use this in conjunction with the shelves, is some of those fingernail polish racks.
Yeah, the acrylic racks.
The acrylic racks.
I'm up to 3 of those bad boys.
I gave you some of those. They're very cheap on Amazon too.
Yeah, $20.
Yeah, you can
something like that.
You can get those. They're great. They work really good. They're very inexpensive. Or you can opt for like a little more expensive option of having the MDF type trays done, which are great. So many great MDF companies out there that will make those racks for you. You can get them custom made. You can get them so they'll hold all the different types of paint that you have. A lot of the MDF manufacturer guys that are cutting it will actually work with you, and they'll get pictures of your workspace, and they'll help you design a system that's going to be a little more useful to your work area. I can't think of too many of the names of the company. I've worked with a lot of them, and I don't want to just say one and leave everybody out.
Right, I understand.
But there's a lot of great MDF guys out there that are cutting MDF, and those racks work really good.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was going to ask you about, because I've seen a lot of them from the previously mentioned Monument Studios to like you said, there's like 20 companies out there now making that stuff, and some of them are pretty elaborate. I mean, like they can circle all around in an L-shaped formation. They have corner pieces.
They'll clip together. I use a bunch of the Caliban design ones from Chris up in Canada.
Yeah, they're a little pricey. They're like
MDF's going to be a little pricier,
but if you think about it, but it's a permanent solution, right?
And it can be very customized, and that's what I like about it. You can really customize it, and some of the nail polish racks will only fit a certain size paint.
Okay.
And then you got other paints that don't fit in it very well, and you got to try to find another solution for that and stuff like that. So MDF is a good system. It is a very expensive system.
Yeah.
So I used both of those in conjunction. I use both my racks where I store a lot of my. I was going by hue, but now I've kind of separated them out into lines.
How do you? So you mean like Reaper paints?
I've been separating them out. I just recently did a big purge, and I pretty much got rid of all of my paint except.
I bought all this P3.
I saw you were selling a bunch of it.
I had so much paint. I literally had so much paint. There was paints that I haven't touched.
Okay.
They were still unopened. So I wanted to limit my choices a little bit. I was tired of having so many
Fair
options.
enough.
And I found that there were just a limited amount of paints that I use anyways. You have your favorites.
Yeah, you find your brands that you stick with, and
Your purples.
yeah.
So I limited myself, and I went down to just 4 brands of paint. Is what I'm
Just
using.
4 brands of paint. So now I'm down to 480.
Probably something near that.
This hobby is never ending.
But that helps. So I have the racks that I have a lot of paint on, and then to get around that issue of having too many choices is what I've done is I've taken those MDF racks and I put those directly in front of my paint area that I paint, and I'll bring down the paints that I'm going to use for that project.
Okay.
And again, that comes back to that efficiency. At the end of the day, I can clean up my desk area without having a big mess, without having to worry about the kids or the cat or anything damaging the area that I'm painting in. But I still have all those paints out. So I put the paints that I'm going to actually use, I put into the little MDF racks right in front of my paint area. And that, again, helps with organization, helps with speeding up my painting so I can just sit down and get to painting. And I'm not going, oh, what was that blue that I used? Where is it?
Yeah, I really like that idea because I tend to I'll keep those paints just on my desk, kind of in a little group. But I like the idea of having like their own MDF storage, or even just another little rack I mount on the wall. And those go right there until that project's done. You're done. You put them back.
Yeah.
I'm totally stealing that idea. I love it.
And that helps, especially when you have like 16 different hues of ivory. You can't remember which ivory you used, stuff like that. So
That's a lot of ivory. You have 16? I only have 8.
well,
Noob.
that new bright ivory. Oh, bright ivory.
From Monument?
Yes.
Yeah, his ivories are amazing. Yeah.
Love that color.
I'm looking forward to trying out because when I placed the order, there was about 8 paints that were out. And they had to get rebottled. And I got that Pyrrole red. I've heard really good things about that red. I'll let you know, Carl.
I don't have that yet.
Because I've heard a lot of people
I'm
ranting
very
and raving
interested
about that color.
What's your recipe for red?
Okay, my recipe for red
Is red.
I'm going to take a nice bright red as my base coat.
And I'm going to throw it at you,
have a
Carl.
nice darker red as a shadow.
Yeah. A little bit of orange.
Hey, you think scarlet red will work? Yeah, go for it.
I'm
Try
sure it will.
Perfect.
What else for heavy support?
We got spray booths. If you have a dedicated studio and you're not airbrushing, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, that's a good point. I need to consider that too.
It's just good to have. It vents that stuff outside if you have a window. I know one of my buddies just vents it into a trash can, that he kind of, I'd say if you're venting it into a trash can, it's probably good to wear a mask. But I have my spray booth right to the right of my studio, and it's just ready there whenever I need it. Always ready. And keep it clean, keep it tidy, change out the filter. But having a spray booth is awesome.
Spray booth really helps. One, it's going to control what you're breathing in. It's going to help kind of control the work area that you're at. But really important, it's going to control that overspray. I use my spray booth. I'm a little bad as an example for it. I don't even vent it. I'm mainly using my spray booth to control my overspray because I'll have Golden Demon pieces that I've been working on for months. And
Caleb's like the Mortarion of hobbyists. He just likes to breathe all the fumes and paint in, and just it coats his lungs, comes out through his pores, and it makes him a better painter. That's the secret to his success. Paint fumes.
Don't do that, guys.
No, don't do
It's
that.
not going to make you a better painter.
Especially if you're if you're airbrushing enamels and things like that. Like, for the love of God.
Do that outside. I mean, even a spray booth in your house is not going to help with that. Get that stuff outside. But yeah, spray booth is really important. I like to also have a big garbage can next to my spray booth that I can do all my
you dump all your
dumping and stuff like that. The artist pads are essential in your studio. Gosh, I use those for a lot.
Yeah, because I'll always see people that have like the dedicated studio setup, right? And they'll have like the big cutting mats set up, which is a good investment. Buy a couple of those, right? You have all the desk space, but it's just like covered in paint. I'm looking at you, Gunner. It's just paint and splatter, and it just just keep your studio looking nice.
I've got a bunch of these folding tables covered in paint.
Yeah, they're folding tables.
That being said, while we were talking, I did just put an offer on a sit-stand desk.
Oh no!
Craigslist. Look at this one.
We inspire each other.
Inches by 32 inches, dude. That'd be awesome. I think I'm gonna convert that corner into my my painting studio.
I mean, the beauty of that is that you have the option, right? You can raise it up, you can stand, you can bring it
Well,
down.
I'll tell you, I have them at work, and being able to sit and stand throughout the day. And the other thing you can do too is you can buy. I have a foam pad that I stand on.
Huge.
If you're in a hard area,
I have those in my garage for gaming,
right?
And they're
so much nicer
awesome.
on your knees and on your feet, and it's just nice and
just being able to stand up and paint with your elbows
Propped.
propped
Yeah.
like that. I mean, it's just I'm gonna look into that as well.
So we'll see if this guy on Craigslist accepts my order.
All right.
Yeah.
What's that bad boy going for?
He wants $450, but I'm offering $400.
That's not bad, man.
79 inches by 32 inches, and it's button push, raise and lower.
That is not bad.
No. For a solid piece of wood. And this is it's literally called Geek Desk. Sit, stand desk.
And
I was like, what? Geek Desk?
Perfect.
And you can get those that'll go on a regular desk also.
Yes, you
little
can.
tray that will
But
go
then you
up.
have a limited tray. Like this is the
Right.
entire
that's the entire
desk will go up and
moving,
down.
yeah.
And if I'm going to put, organizers for paints on it, I want the whole thing going up and down. And all
That's
right.
probably the way to go, because I've seen those. I go to Home Depot quite a bit with my
I don't know
job.
what power I'm going to feed to it right now. There's no power in the Astronomicon, but eventually
But it's
there'll be
okay
that
because you
power
brought
back.
your extension cord.
That's right. Wow, that was an excellent callback. Live it.
You're good. Living it.
Okay, so we've got our paint storage. You've got power. You got lighting. Your brushes are stored, right?
Yep.
Because those storage systems typically have brush storage as well. They can have some things can have drawers. You could have, standing things. You got pads down to protect yourself. You got a spray booth area, all in one convenient large location.
Pure efficiency.
And one thing that tends
What about?
to get
Okay, go ahead.
tends to get forgotten there is have a place to store your ongoing projects.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What about the models you're working on?
I can tell you, oh man, I've got such terrible stories about,
Leaving a dreadnought on a fence post in England and
yeah,
getting to games day without it.
or you have that model that's 3/4 of the way finished. And,
Yeah.
and you've invested quite a bit of time in it, and you're working on another little project, and you're like, ooh, I need to just do some touch up with the airbrush, and you go over and grab that, and the model that you've been working on is sitting behind the model that you decided.
And you just ruin it by spraying on it.
Right. So have a dedicated area that your projects will go to.
Whether it's a little shelf above your studio.
Yeah.
I have a full IKEA cabinet dedicated, like half
To the stuff you're painting.
half the shelves have like 2 completed armies, and then the other kind of lower shelves just have projects I'm working on.
Interesting. Okay.
The top of that rack that I was telling you about that I put my project paints on, I leave the top little shelf open.
Okay.
And that's where I put the models that I'm working on. Again, efficiency. If you got to go up, and even little things like getting up and having to go to another shelf is going to cost time. But if you have those models right in front of you, and
Especially if you're batch painting.
your batch
right?
painting right, you
Yeah.
can just set it up there. It's nice and protected. It's out of the way. You're not going to hit it with your elbow, knock your models off the table,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Because I think that touches on a really important thing is you have that dedicated studio. It's really easy to kind of get complacent and not keep up on keeping it organized and resetting that mechanism.
I was just going to say, that's where we say
yeah.
clear the mechanism. And
You can afford to go maybe 2, 3, 4 sessions or whatnot before you have to do it. But again, leaving that cluttered desktop, something's going to break, something's going to spill.
Yeah.
Don't get complacent. Keep up on it. Maybe once a week you go through and put everything back and reorganize. Super important, and it's mentally clarifying to do that as well. I find just to clean that space.
Awesome.
And then, there's a lot of little personal touches that you can put into your studio.
But what's interesting is at work, right? Guys at my work always decorate their area with various Star Wars toys and whatever they're into. This is kind of the area you want to keep free of that clutter.
I would say yes and no.
Really? I would think I wouldn't want anything but my efficient painting stuff there.
I have a lot of artwork set up around my work area.
For inspiration.
It's
stuff.
inspiration.
Yeah.
It's inspiration. I love when I'm sitting and I'm painting and stuff like that to look up and see. I got one of the lithographs of one of the ADB Night Lords.
Yeah.
The Terminators.
But that's on the wall, right?
But it's right in front of you. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen some people have like a large monitor or something there too. You know, I assume they're probably using it for painting hangouts or looking at online. I mean, online's such a useful tool for looking at color schemes and ideas and approaches for stuff.
Watching paint videos while you're painting or listening to paint videos. I'll even put on just monotonous TV shows.
That's what I do. I watch television while I paint. I mean, but like it's something where it's kind of like I can look away and, you know, you can't watch anything with subtitles. I was just talking to Aaron during our Patreon episode about this. Like, I'm one of those people that I can have the TV on and work, especially if it's something I've either seen before or I'm just like a sitcom, you know, whatever. But if it's like some foreign film that has subtitles or like I was watching,
or just a really good movie, like you have Last of the Mohicans on or
you're
something,
gonna get stuck.
You're going to stop and start watching that movie. I can't do it. I have a little holder for my phone on one of those little copper little, you know, arm deals. And I just cannot watch anything while I'm hobbying. It's a podcast, it's an audio book.
But it's audio stuff you can listen to.
Yeah, and then if I'm doing like a hobby hangout, it's just right there and I can see everybody. But for me personally, I've thought about putting a TV there, but I just feel like it would take up too much space for me, and then it would just distract me if I'm watching Netflix or whatever. But
yeah, but like I was watching Narcos, and like there's a lot of Spanish in there that's subtitled, and it's like
you have no choice but to look up.
I can't watch this. Like I gotta watch something that don't have to look at. And mostly it's just ambient noise for the most part in my case.
Yep.
If any of you guys have listened to my Twitch feeds, it's always there's music in the background. I gotta have music when I paint. Me personally, I use music, but I mean, you know, the TV make the space home comfortable.
Yeah,
make it. I don't want to say homely, homey.
Yeah,
you know me,
homey.
It can be homely if you know that works.
Homey studio.
You know, make it something that you want to go in and enjoy some time and enjoy your studio.
This is true because you're going to spend a lot of time in it, right? That's a good point.
So,
that's a fair point.
In a perfect world, yes. Because if you have all that invested in a home studio and you're not using it, then what you doing, man? You got to use that.
So what you're saying is, this isn't going to solve my problem not getting stuff painted.
You got to find
probably not. But it's going to look nice.
And I want to back up real quick just for a second. There's one thing that we talked about, and I guess we didn't put it in the notes. When we go back to that fast attack, you have that limited space area. A really good tool me and Justin were talking about is those rolling toolbox carts. Those can make a really good work area, and I don't know why we didn't mention that.
Yeah, like those the plastic ones.
Yeah, almost like an electrician's cart. You know, like I have one that when we do pre-wires of places, and it's just so handy. But you could easily turn that, and they usually have a lip around it too, so nothing's going to fall off. And it's enough space that you could set up a really nice little portable studio that when you're done, you just roll it into a spare bedroom or something, and then it's there. Yeah, and it's there, or into your garage if you don't have steps, you know, to deal with. Really could be kind of cool.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Literally a fast attack. It's on wheels.
Maybe you can edit that into the fast attack side.
No, we'll just keep it here.
Yeah, keep it here. The information.
Justin's doing the editing this episode.
That's right. I think another crucial thing for the studio is having tools like Dremels, heat guns. You have the space, right? Drill a couple little hooks into the side of your desk and have those things just at arm's length ready to go, so you don't have to have it. You know, you have to get out of the box or go. Right. Have all your power tools that you use a lot there at a foot away, right there. And then Caleb, you mentioned air hoses. You had a little trick you did with your airbrush hoses in your studio.
Yeah. So one of the hardest things with your airbrush station is those hoses, and they get wrapped around things, and you're trying to figure out how to control them. So I came up with a little idea. What I did is on the side of my desk, where it's got like that vertical wall that like holds the side of the desk. Yeah. I took and drilled two little holes. I have a splitter on my compressor that has two hoses coming off of it. So I drilled two little holes, and I made them just slightly larger than the quick connect on the airbrush. Uh-huh. Now, if you can take your quick connect off, that'll be even better, because then the quick connect will hold it from falling through the hole. Right. But what you do is you drill that hole. You want to limit it to be just so the hose will barely slide through it. And then slide the end of those hoses out to your work area. then when you're airbrushing, you can grab that hose, you can pull it out. So I have like 15-foot long airbrush hoses. If you had that in your desk, it'd be a mess.
Right.
But because they tuck into that little hole, when you pull them out, I just use what I need. Then when I get done, I just slide it back in there. I put little rubber grommets on the end of it so that when it hits,
Doesn't chafe.
Yeah, it doesn't chafe the hose. And then when the quick connect hits it right there, it'll stop the hose from falling back through the desk.
Nice.
But it's a super.
And so is the hose just stored like in a drawer or in a?
No, it's just in the bottom on the floor of the desk.
But
just,
hidden out of the out of
it's
way.
hidden and it naturally just kind of coils itself.
Yeah, I like that idea.
That's cool.
A cardboard box. Place a cardboard box right there, and it'll hold the hose
That makes
inside
sense.
the box, so it
Yeah.
doesn't like roll all over the
Yeah.
place. Stuff
If
like
a
that.
cat's not sitting in it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. They do that.
So that's a great little trick that I have for my desk. One that I just did is I was trying to figure out a good way to hold your snips.
Yeah. Clippers.
The little clippers. And I tried like the 2 holes and you slide the handles in it and all that stuff and it takes up a bunch of space. But what I did is right on the wall, right next to like the little desk area, I just put a couple of nails and then you can flip the handles upside down so it hangs down.
Sure.
And you can just set them right on the wall and they'll stay right there and 2 little nails hold it in place. So that was I thought about that as we were talking about that. So there's little tricks like that. Maybe if you guys have tricks like that, you guys share those with independent characters. You guys can.
Where do you do you have any pictures of your paint studio up anywhere?
Not really. Not since I've done the new one.
Can you send me some pictures and then maybe we can share them?
Yeah, let's definitely do that. And I would love to get some pictures of Cat's studio.
Yeah.
We really
thing
spent
is
some time
Impressive.
building that one.
The thing about Cat Studio is all the pinup art. I don't get it. But
The thing about Cat's studio is there's, I don't know,
48 airbrushes.
48 airbrushes, 4,000 paints.
she only uses them one time. She just like airbrush and then throws it out. And goes to the next airbrush.
I asked her that. I said, well, what do you need 8 Sotars for? And she goes, well, what if I want to paint more than one model?
All right. I remember when I showed up to help with the Titan, I was just blown away by that studio. It's like, oh man, Mecca.
Awesome.
It's the
I thought I had a
Shangri-La.
problem.
It is definitely the Shangri-La of hobby
It
studios.
is.
Nice.
It's impressive.
All right.
One last thing I would say on this
Yeah.
is if you have that big space, get yourself a nice big wet palette. Don't limit yourself to a little
tiny one.
little tiny one. Might as well go big and get a nice 1 foot by 1 foot, just more working space. Get them blends down.
Yeah, and there's a couple of great palette manufacturers out there that make great ones. The Masters ones aren't bad.
Yeah.
I personally, I really like those red grass ones.
I do too.
With the little seal in them. They got the little magnet and the little...
For the pit palette.
The little, yeah.
Yep.
And, oh man, I put my inks in those all the time.
Yeah.
And my metallics. I don't like putting my metallics in my wet palette.
I don't either.
I've been told you're not supposed to do that. Like it doesn't help. It bleeds through, right?
It just makes them it breaks them down too fast,
So you just use the little thing that magnetizes to the side. I have that one as well.
My problem with the pit pallets, I'm so lazy at cleaning them because I just find it such a pain in the butt. You got to put isopropyl in there or really hot water and get some elbow grease, right? I just use like water bottle caps, or I'll use beer. I'll just have a little box full of those things. Put my ink washes, my metallics in there.
Every time I go to the burrito place, I just take extra salsa.
So you're that guy.
I'm that guy. I don't take like a huge amount of them, but I take like 3 or 4 at a time. And
yeah, I mean, I've been saving all my little orange.
with how often I go to the burrito place,
I love those little
That's like 40 a week.
those orange juice lids. I always looked at those when I'd throw them away. And I'm like, man, that could be cool for terrain because it has that kind of pillar look to it. And long story short, I've been saving those. I'm up to about 10 of them. My kid drinks a lot of orange juice, and they're great for like model holders, a little putty on them. Yeah.
Yeah, for the pit palette for cleaning that, I just throw mine in the dishwasher.
Do you really?
If it doesn't get all the paint off, it'll soften up the paint enough that when
That
you
you can
take
just
it out,
swipe
you just
it
take
out.
your fingernail and just.
I'll have to try
it's
that.
kind of satisfying too when you get like about 6
nice
layers
layer,
of paint.
yeah.
You get to get in there and peel it off.
that
I don't
is,
know what it is.
that is one of those things. Like I actually don't like that feeling. Like,
Really?
yeah, there's like certain
all underneath your
tactile
fingernails
feelings
and-
yeah. Oh
I
no,
don't
no
know.
thanks.
There's something satisfying about that too.
Well, Caleb, we've always said you're weird, but
Well,
Get the skin
I've
box.
never argued that.
all right. Well, listen, we're gonna take a short break. We're gonna come back for the second half of the show. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, I'm Caleb,
And this is Kat.
and we are CK Studios. We want to invite you and your friends to come paint with us at one of our exciting and fun-filled airbrush and hobby weekenders. Our weekend workshops are 2 days of intense hands-on training, working directly with and learning from some of the top gaming artists in the industry.
Whether you're brand new to miniature painting or an experienced veteran that wants to up your game, CK Studios has the workshop for you. Our workshops cover everything from learning the basics and building confidence in airbrushing, all the way up to creating that centerpiece model for your army or display case.
For more class info and our upcoming schedule, you can find us on Facebook at CK Studios Come Paint With Us, or register directly at ckstudios.bigcartel.com.
If you can't find a class near you, that's okay. Just contact us and we'll bring a workshop to you.
All right, we are back and we're off script now a little bit because as Kat, hi Kat.
Hi.
As Kat sat back and listened to us talk at the end of the segment, Caleb turned to Kat and goes, "Hey, how do you think that went? Did we get everything?" And Kat goes, "No, you missed a bunch of stuff." So Kat is now here to correct us on all the things that we just said wrong.
You have another hour and a half?
No, but we did. We did talk a little bit about your studio, and your 42 airbrushes or something ridiculous like that. So what did we miss here? Like what items, as you listen to us talk, like what other benefits would we have here?
And this is relative to having a dedicated space.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, so like when I'm looking around here and what you could do, one of the things I find
What you could do.
and interior design the Astronomicon for me.
Every studio needs a woman's touch.
Oh yeah.
Seriously.
I think some of the things that make it really flow well is having a different station for the different things. So have a build station, have your airbrush station, have everything dedicated to what you're doing for a particular activity in your hobby progress.
Okay.
And that, for me, I mean, you can have different lighting. Not everything requires the detailed lighting, that type of stuff. But then I can leave my projects in process that way too.
Okay.
And then I keep trays.
I like that.
You guys are talking trays, the MDF trays for your paint and everything. I'll keep trays that have my go-to for that particular product.
Okay.
Or not project with the products I'm using for it. One of the other things you can do, and people kind of forget this when we do it in regular auto shops and stuff, is magnetic strips. They're really simple to apply to a wall.
Okay.
And to attach anything metallic to them. So to get it
That's
up
a really
off
good
your
tip.
desk.
Hobby blades.
Exactly. Hobby blades.
Your clippers,
some of
you
your
put nails into your
ferrules.
wall to hold up.
Some of the ferrules on your paintbrushes, you can hang them upside down so they dry properly.
Interesting.
There's a lot of use for that.
I like that.
Yeah. And on the thought of having individual stations, one of the things that I think people are really getting into photography. And you set up a photography station in your studio and it can take up half the studio now because everybody's got to have 10 lights and everything else. One of the things we've seen, and I think you finally did it in your last space or you were going to, is mounting it on the wall. So it folds up, collapses, it's out of your way.
What are you talking about? Folds up and collapses.
So that the tray itself, that, you know, when you do an actual booth,
A photo booth with a light box. Yeah.
Right. So it folds up.
Yeah.
There's a great one. We can link it on
Okay.
Amazon, and it's a fold up booth that has its own lights in it, LED light and everything. The cool thing about that is one of the problems with photography is that ambient light. The ambient light that we were talking about that you want when you're painting, you don't want when you're photographing.
Exactly.
And that's why light boxes and all that stuff are so important. Well, this one, it's got the Velcro faces on it, and it pretty much closes down to where just the camera is going through the opening. And the quality of my pictures just skyrocketed by getting,
really?
and it was like $60. It's got the Velcro faces, so you can put all the different color backgrounds in it. It's reflective on the inside. It's got like the shiny silver reflected.
Yeah.
So the light just it just surrounds the model. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I noticed your pictures got much better.
Yeah.
With those, like huge.
And if you don't have that light box or something like that, what you want to do is limit the light, especially outside light. You don't want daylight coming into your photography area. So, get good blinds. stuff like that. Turn off all the lights except for the photography lights, stuff like that when you're doing the photography.
And I think, that's like the last step we get to when we're doing the hobby, but that's like the first thing you should think about when you're putting your space together. Because it's more specific. You can do lighting and work around lighting, but give yourself that space and then build a lot of other stuff kind of relatively speaking. So I think that one's really important. I think we kind of missed out on the chair part.
How did we miss out?
We talked about standing, but the chair itself having...
Justin talked about
I mentioned because I just bought a nice gaming chair. So
the chair is super important, and it's not just that, but it needs to be pretty mobile. So being able to kind of protect everything, we went through and made that. Like when we were doing my studio, it was look around the floors, put protection down on the floors, especially for wood floors and stuff like that.
That's something I need to do.
Yeah, just make sure that you're kind of protected that way, and then also making it somewhere where you want to be. So make sure you have a laptop, you have all the resources you need, build that into your workspace. We built that into your workspace and went and bought Caleb a huge monitor and then made sure it was wall mountable. It's set up behind where he's doing everything. And people kind of forget that part. And then you go and it's like, oh, I need to put 2 monitors up. I do Twitch streaming.
Sure.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting point. If you're doing any streaming or anything, you want to take that into account where you're mounting cameras, that kind of thing. Yeah.
It takes up a lot of
room. And then
room.
at that point, you probably want to go for more of the desk standing paints, because you're not going to have all that wall space for your racks to be mounted. Right.
Exactly.
Stuff to think about.
Yeah. And the portable stuff, we talked a lot about traveling and moving our equipment and our gear around. That kind of goes in line with having just that go-to set. You have your go-to set that you can pick up and you can take anywhere, and the portability of it, but do that in your workspace too.
How do you mean?
Make sure that you're able to, because for me, I don't work on the same project all the time when I am working on one. Working on a project, make sure I have it portable and easy. So I don't like to go in and have to clean up everything around me to get going. You guys talked about that. So I'll have my projects in trays. They're portable. I can move them. I can set them aside. I can take it out to the living room if I want to watch movies, that kind of thing. Make sure everything's kind of in that portable mode. Sure. Then it makes it easy also to clean your space off real quick.
It's funny. I always pictured Kat's studio kind of like a true, not that this is the wrong way of putting it. I was gonna say a true artist studio, but like a messy artist studio.
Oh, it is.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Like have you ever seen Dexter? In like season 2 of Dexter, he starts dating that gal that's like super crazy. Not the Kat's super crazy, but she's kind of crazy. But
her name was Kat too, wasn't it?
Was it? It might have been.
I think it was.
And she was working with all the metals, and she'd go like steal all the metal.
And come to think of it, Kat's studio is wrapped in plastic.
Wait a second.
Easy access to hobby knives
and power tools.
A
lot of them.
Everything compartmentalized.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, but I always kind of pictured your studio as being like, the quintessential like messy artist studio. I saw an interview with Jim Carrey, who does a lot of painting these days.
Yeah.
And I think it was Seinfeld interviewing him. It was like on Getting Cars with Coffee or something. And he went and he was showing him like all these, and he has paint everywhere and just, and I was like, that's probably what Kat's place looks like.
It really can be. Because they do so much different
I'm so glad that my expectations meet reality.
Yes, a certain element of chaos is creativity. So,
sure. There you go. I agree.
They feed each other. For me, they feed each other. So, yeah.
You're talking to 2 chaos players here. Maybe 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 4. Yeah, okay. So, we get it.
That's right. You do have Death Guard.
That's right.
How are they coming?
There's a lot of them.
Those plague burst crawlers are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that you painted?
Yeah, exactly. They're beautiful. No, I have a ton of them built.
Well, we have a new codex coming, so.
I know. I can't wait to play. We're going to play.
8th edition, right?
Yeah, 8th edition. I got to catch up to 8th edition. I did at least play that a couple times.
All right. Well, the other thing, anything else we missed, or we feel like you've now redeemed yourself? Okay.
I really like that magnetic strip idea.
Yeah, that's a really clever idea.
Look into that.
All right. All right, I'm
Love
working on a few things. Okay, so then kind of the next half of this, since the show was kind of preparing for battle, I thought let's talk briefly about actually getting to the table. Like, what are some considerations you want to make as you're actually going to table? How can you be efficient there as well? So now you've painted your army because you're super efficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I need just to get an efficient workspace. My army's painted. Now I want to go play. I think a lot of things to take into account here are you going for a pickup game at like a local store kind of thing or event, or are you scheduling a game with friends? And when you kind of work from that initial trunk of the tree, that will take into account many things that you're going to do. So like for pickup games in particular, I always feel like, which I don't play many of.
Yeah.
I don't play many of. Maybe at cons or events, I might. But like if I were going to go do a pickup game locally, I want to have things that are super fast to deploy. I want to be able to transport my army quickly.
That's where that Tablewar case comes in, yeah?
All that stuff, right? But there's benefits to scheduling games and there's benefits to quick pickup games as well. And with scheduling games, usually we're playing at somebody's house or we can meet at a store. In our particular case, we're playing at people's houses.
Yeah.
When the Astronomicon's in working condition, we can play here. We can play it at Justin's down the street, whatever.
But for a while, we were going to Game Castle. We were playing occasional games, and
that's true.
You never know. The world might return to normal, and we'll start to be able to go to these places again.
Yeah. But the nice thing about those kinds of games is you're usually comfortable with your opponent already. So you guys have expectations planned. If it's in a environment you're familiar with, then you have that comfortability level there too. So you're able to get kind of to where you want to get quickly and begin the game. If you're playing at a store and you're playing at a scheduled game at a store, if you can reserve a table, that would be ideal. You don't want to show up and then the two of you want to play and all the tables are full. Or
especially nowadays with such limited bodies that can be in one place, yeah.
Yep. And we'll talk about kind of gaming in the era of COVID as well.
But that shouldn't stop you from wanting to go down if you don't have a table reserved. I know one of the big problems that we have in our area is there's usually not enough people hanging out at the hobby store to pick up a game with.
Interesting.
You don't know a lot of people. So it'll vary by your
region. Yeah.
If you've got a super active 40K or gaming community.
Or you go down to schedule a game to play on Saturday and they're hosting a tournament that day. Right.
Yeah. So, if you're in an area like that, yeah, definitely you want to make sure that you're scheduling a table. But, if you know that your hobby store tends to be a little more lax on that there's not a lot of players, don't let not scheduling or reserving a table stop you from coming down.
For sure.
There might be somebody who's been sitting there for an hour and a half just wanting to play a game.
Well, and at events too. I mean, I do a lot of pickup games at events because they're kind of between scheduled and pickup.
Exactly. Yeah. You always have those people that reach out, hey, you want to get a game in?
Yeah,
and
because they know I'm coming. And so, okay, we want to play. Well, where are we going to play? We end up finding, I know, well, look, after the first day of the tournament, you're going to get about 30% of those people dropping. We're probably going to be able to get a table over in the tournament area.
Yeah, without fail.
People drop. Yeah. So, we kind of schedule it around that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It gets scheduled around the Space Hulk game.
Right, that's for sure. Oh man, I miss it.
I can't talk about that.
Whereas pickup games too, I think the thing you're going to want to consider is when if you're going to a store or something like that to do a pickup game, check with the store management, check with whoever's hosting. Like, when do people show up for these types of games? Is there groups that show up that are handling pickup games and that kind of thing? Like, kind of do your reconnaissance before you head to the war zone, so to speak.
Yeah, because a lot of game stores will have dedicated days for
sure
games,
or for different types of games. Like, for example, in game up in Oakland, they had specific nights they were doing 40K. Some nights they were doing RPG. Sometimes card games, and card games will fill up a store real quick. So you're going to find out you don't have room at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you bring if you're going to a remote battle? Well, you're going to bring your army, obviously.
Bring your rule book. Bring your books. Don't be that guy that's like, hey man, can I borrow reading the books off the shelf of the game store?
Tape
God,
measures.
Used to drive me crazy.
Bring your army list.
at army
There's
list.
nothing worse
Number one.
than when you want to go play a game and the guy's like, all right, hold on. Let me spend 20 minutes. I got to
Making
write
my
list.
army. Yeah. That's the worst.
Just come prepared. Yeah.
Just kill me. at
With a
that
couple
point.
different lists too, you know. I think it's worth doing like a,
1,000
point, and
1,500.
then maybe a 1,500 and a 2K. Bring the whole 2K, because you might have somebody who's like, I maybe have time for 1,000. Do you want? But if you didn't have that set ready to go, then you got to spend time making your list. And
Yeah. And a lot of times this can actually speak to how you build your army too, because if I have to cart down a 2,000 point army, but I'm missing this one unit that I would have in my 1,000 point army,
Sure.
Sometimes I'm willing to forego more efficiency just to make more efficiency on the battlefield, just to make it, if I cut out these units, I'm down to 1,000 points or 992 points or something, right? So that you're able to quickly, you don't have to carry your entire collection there.
yeah, and also like if you're like an orc player, for example, like maybe you
poor
don't bring
orc
your 120 orc boy list, which probably isn't very good anymore anyways, but you know what I mean? Like bring a list that's not a million models, that
Could
helps.
help. Yeah, for sure. Tape measures, dice, that kind of thing. Templates if necessary. Yeah, the usual. So then this kind of brings in, food and drink, right? Like, does where you're going allow it? Some places may not. Some places may allow you only eat in certain areas, et cetera, et cetera. I always bring something to offer my opponent too if I'm eating something.
Don't forget your flask.
Your flask. And terrain. Does your store provide terrain? Do you have to bring your own terrain?
What's the quality of the terrain?
What's the quality of the terrain? Like, what is the experience you want? And I've found though, I find I get a better experience out of arranged games rather than pickup games. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
You're coming, you're having that discussion before you ever get there. You know what? We're gonna play a 1,500 point game, Justin. I'm thinking of bringing my 1,000 Suns. What are you thinking of bringing? I'll bring this. Okay, cool.
See, I try not to tell people what I'm using. I mean, right now, clearly,
maybe not specifically, but
no, but like I like the mystery of like what's going to show up at in my slaughter hut. What am I going to fight today? Because there's something to be said for like tailoring your list.
this is true.
And I've had plenty of games with Chris and Robert and others where we tell each other exactly.
But you just said you got surprised by those custodies.
I did. Oh, God. But that comes down to list building, right? Like we should never be building our list to take on one type of foe. We should be building our list. Isn't it nice?
Well,
All around.
sometimes you can. I mean, it depends, right? Like if we both know you're going to bring Death Guard and I'm going to bring 1,000 Suns.
Could make for a bloodier game.
It can make for
I suppose.
I know he's going to have high toughness. I'm going to have to bring
all the melta guns,
everything
all
I
the-
can.
yeah.
So, I mean,
I guess there's benefits to both sides.
to both.
Yeah.
I prefer all comers list.
Yeah.
Like kind of experience too. I don't tend to tailor my list. I did when I first started playing. Like there was a point where Dave Noble used to play Tyranids all the time, and he'd play these huge monster Tyranids. And I was just like, every time he'd just get up in my grill and just eat my Marines. And finally I'm like, you know what? I should take these whirlwinds and I should take like a bunch of Devastator squads with las
Or
cannons.
predators or whatever. Yeah. And then the escalation.
Yeah, and
starts.
so I remember this game distinctly. I just used these whirlwinds to kind of funnel his Tyranids into this one funnel because he got so worried. He just funneled this one funnel, and I was just like, and this squad shoots it. What's that? That's a hive tyrant. Okay, all these guys shoot at that hive tyrant. He just removed the hive tyrant but would that list have stood up against everything? No, most certainly not. So I found that experience, it was fun to win that game, but then as I thought about it later, I was like, that was not really a great experience, like all around. Like that wasn't fun. It probably wasn't as fun for Dave either. And so, at that point, that was when I just said, I'm just going to come up with a generic list that I play. And I swap out units occasionally just for fun.
Sure.
So
That's kind of another issue that we run into in our local
In your
area.
group?
In the past, is we had a lot of
Just like net listing, kind of
net
brutal.
listing, hardcore, and look at your opponent.
but that's
that
not
you're
your
gonna play.
style of game, right?
Well, just know your opponent, and that's where the arranged games are a little better. But even pickup games,
At the same time, though, I think
Maybe
ninth
you can-
edition has done a great job of kind of mitigating that a bit with the lack of soup armies out there.
So far.
but
You know?
if you're going to show up at a store for pickup games, bring that hardcore list, but maybe bring a soft list too.
That's a great point.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That is a great point. And then get a feel for your opponent and what they're really doing and what kind of game do you want, right? At that point. But the problem is like, and that's easier to organize ahead of time.
Yeah.
But at a spur of the moment, you're like, well, now I've had to bring more stuff to accommodate.
And I think that's something that's really great about 9th edition is there's a lot more pre-game communication. You got to talk about the terrain. You got to talk about,
reserves.
Reserves.
There is nothing worse than getting halfway through a game and then going, so what does this terrain do? And then you're like, and especially if it's critical, if it's like, well, the objective is in the middle of this terrain.
Yeah, I know ruins have been very like subject of debate, of like, is it the building that blocks line of sight? Is it the base?
As long as you decide that ahead of time.
Yeah, the frontline guys were talking about that, and it's just to have that conversation, and then it doesn't matter which way you play it.
It really
just
doesn't.
Take that 5 minutes and have the conversation.
Because then you're working from the same template. And it doesn't matter.
And the new 9th edition terrain rules are so good. Yeah. Like at first you read them and you're like, that's a lot of information. But once you get used to it, it becomes very like second nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just makes it fun. It's just added that new element.
I like how they slow you down. You don't have like the random moving through difficult terrain, but if you're moving through a forest, you're slower. Or if you're moving over an obstacle, like you gain all these benefits of being there, but you also get a little bit of a hindrance. It's super cool.
Yep. So now how are you going to get your army there? Again, and I said this, I think, earlier in the show, locally, for me, Tablewar is my solution, right? I love being able to deploy fast from those
you can't beat
transport. No, because I pop out a tray. I've got all my troops on this tray. Boop, boop, boop. They're out, done. The foam is, especially with models now, they're getting like more and more spindly, more and more elaborate,
more and more mini diorama.
I'm looking at this, immolator, and you look at all the pokey
that stuff
spikes.
Will break if you're not careful.
There's a cherub that sticks off the back of this on a chain and floats up here.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's going to be the first thing that breaks. Is this a vehicle I can transport in a foam? Very carefully, like with maybe double the foam necessary to transport it.
And to be honest, it's kind of one of those tragic things with Games Workshop kits now too, where you look at certain things and you're like, that looks so cool, but I know it's going to break.
Yep.
Do I include it, or do I go through the hassle of magnetizing it?
Yeah.
And I find myself more for gaming armies, just like
leaving it off.
We're going to leave that cherub off.
Yep.
And you can incorporate it into like a model later and have it maybe glued at 2 points, like on a banner or something, so it's sturdy. You're like, don't throw it away, but
actually gluing it to a banner is a good idea.
Yeah, just 2 points of contact instead of, but that's a real struggle.
So one of the things for this kind of army in particular that I like about Tablewar is, magnetizes down.
Yep.
I transport a card. Unfortunately, Tablewar is, as we said before, not great for airplane solution.
Right.
And so then I find myself making a decision on what army do I bring, because what can I safely put in foam and transport? Now, fortunately, my Zeech Demons and Thousand Suns list I've transported multiple times in KR cases and to Adepticon to Europe, etc. Never had a real problem. At most, some guys will pop off a base or something.
And I've seen a lot of guys too that'll just get the Tupperware containers and then get a piece of sheet metal down.
Yep.
Magnetized down. So if you're on a budget.
But again, getting that onto a plane.
No, not for a plane,
Right.
but like if you're just going out of the game store.
Sure.
Like that could be,
For sure, that's a great solution. Magnetizing the base is super easy too.
Yeah.
Like super easy. I had
just get the polarity right. And you're
stack them. Well, you don't need to if you're against metal.
No, that's true. Yeah,
right?
That's true.
But if they're strong, like you asked about my Titanicus stuff earlier, Caleb, it's all painted. And then I magnetized it to the Tablewar case, and I used too many magnets. And so
you're like yanking on that thing.
I remove it right off the base. So now what I do, and I can't get the magnets out. And so now what I do is every time I go to put them down, I have a strip of ribbon, and I put that under it, and I'll set it on top of the ribbon. It holds it down, and I just pull up on the ribbon, and it'll come off. But
nice.
But it's like I stuck it to it. I'm like, oh no, like I really because when I was putting the magnets on, I'm like, I don't want this to slide around at all. Oh, it's not sliding, Carl. Good job.
How many magnets do you put on that thing? Like 3, 4?
Yeah, 3.
Oof.
Yeah, it was way overdone.
Yeah, I really enjoy the Tablewar, and not to keep beating the Tablewar
No,
drum.
And that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm just saying is,
yeah, and I like them because, the new products that are coming out where what's that guy's name that makes the display base trays that have the magnets already.
Oh,
in the
the pre-painted ones.
Yeah, and it makes a whole diorama. In fact, we were just talking to Doug.
He just released how you can 3D print his stuff. Like he just released STLs, so you can print.
Oh, that's cool.
And they don't come painted, obviously, but you can print them yourself, and he's selling those. I'm totally.
I know a guy with a 3D printer.
I'm totally drawing a blank on them, but I have them. I have my Necromunda guys on them, and I love them. I love those bases. I'll put a link to the show notes the
pre-painted one he's got are pretty nice too.
I mean, for smaller games like that, how cool of an idea is that, right? It's just all portable. Yeah, grab it and go.
Doug contacted us just a little bit ago. We're talking about putting together a CK Studio class on building display trays.
Oh, nice.
For your armies for Tablewar.
Yeah, because
we think that's going to be a convention class.
That would be really fun.
Sweet.
Yeah. That would be really fun. I love that product, and as these models have become more like Celestine. Celestine's a great, she's standing on the ribbons or whatever that are flowing off of her. Like,
yeah.
How do you transport that? Well, if you can magnetize it to something and it's standing free, it's fine. As long as you don't slam it.
So it's a real concern with the Games Workshop kits, I mean, look at that new Techless model.
This is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about.
How do you bring that on an airplane? I mean, you have to get a custom cut foam for it and just pray it doesn't
Or
explode.
Like I've done, I took a Tupperware thing and filled it full of foam that I had left over from all the foam I pulled out.
Now there are some tricks to flying with Tablewar cases.
Oh yes, you stuff it full of foam.
Well, what
I've
we
seen
would do,
Doug do it.
Competition models you cannot put in foam,
right?
Because the paint itself is so fiddly, and when you're making ribbons and banners out of tinfoil, you can't put that in foam.
It can't touch anything.
Right. It can't touch anything.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we were building like wood boxes and screwing the models to the base of it. So with Tablewar, if you need to fly with it, what you're gonna do is it's got to be the mini. No, not the mini case. The mid case. Which one? Yeah, the mid case.
So the mid case,
not the big tall one.
Is the one I have over there that's blue.
Yes,
it's about half the size of the tower case.
Now the mid case is usually a little too tall to fit in the overhead.
Yeah.
So what you do is you take the top off. Then you roll it on its side. You pull your trays out, and you put your trays in the bottom of it. And you lay the case on its side and then put the lid under it.
Oh, right, because it's still a box.
It's still a box. You put that in the overhead, no problem.
As long as nobody puts something on top of it.
Yeah. I mean, but it'll take up the majority of the overhead.
Yeah.
Now, if you're on some of the bigger planes, you can just stick it in there regular.
Yeah.
You can't. Well, I've flown with mine a few times.
Okay, that's good to know.
You're probably playing with a custode army or something at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're not going to have multi-layers of trays. You're going to have probably a single layer.
So anyway, the point being, getting to a store with this, if it's a local store, is a great solution. The magnetization solution is a great one, I think. And the reason it's great is because once you're at the table, deploying your army is so much faster than foam. Like foam, not only is foam take a long time to get all your army out of, then you have to put the foam somewhere while it's not being used. Yeah. The thing about the Tablewar cases is the display case. As soon as your models are coming off the table, you just put them right back in.
Yeah.
And it's just super easy.
Which when I do have, because I actually personally don't own the Tablewar yet. I will soon. But when I use my foam cases in games, as models die, I'll make sure to put them back.
Yeah.
So
I try to.
Yeah.
But if you're playing in a tournament where you're going from table to table too.
Yeah, it's a little trickier.
That's why you have a tray and you carry it around. But now you're still dragging the foam box around. It's a nice solution. I'm not trying to push. I should shut up about it. Okay. All right. So let's move on. But if you're playing and when something works, like I'm really like, I'll be honest. When I first met Doug, he was a friend of a friend. He had the Tablewar stuff and he wanted to advertise on the show. And at the time we had an exclusive agreement with KR and I wasn't going to advertise. I said, I'm sorry, I can't. And, we just became friends as he'd be like, oh man, come on. You know how Doug is. And I met Todd and
we know
Todd and I became good friends. And so once the show kind of relaunched, I got in touch with KR. I said, listen, we're not going to do an exclusive agreement anymore. And he was fine with that. And the thing is, When I first saw the Tablewar system, I was like, that's not for me. I'm like, okay, Doug, cool, whatever. We'll advertise for it, whatever. But I don't think I'll get one. Then I actually saw one in play, and my buddy Ryan had one, and we went and played a game, and I saw how fast he deployed his army, and I was still pulling stuff out of foam, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm like, okay, I get it. And then I bought one, and I'm like, oh. Yeah. And then when I would go up to Game Castle when it was up in Mountain View, that was my choice.
Yeah, you really can't beat it.
It was so good.
It's awesome.
So anyway, okay, so that's going to a game store, all that. But let's say you're preparing for war at your house, right? Now, a lot of those considerations of going to a remote place would take effect if you're coming to somebody's house. But let's say it's at your house. There's a lot of things you want to take into consideration. First off, anytime I have guests over the house, I like to make sure my house is cleaned up. Yeah. Normally, this room would be very clean. You've been to it when it's in its prime.
We've seen it when it's clean.
It's in a rough situation.
I'm more comfortable with it right now.
Oh, good, because I'm not.
It reminds me of my studio.
It actually causes me anxiety that it's this messy, but I have no shelving to put anything on at the moment, and I don't want to store some of this stuff out in the garage. So, take some time. Pick up your place. Declutter it a little bit. Get it prepared for guests. Clean. Empty garbage cans. Recycle disposal things. So because you're probably going to use those, so you're going to want them empty anyway.
Sure.
Make sure your bathroom facilities are prepared, right? Nothing worse than having guests come over and, there's no more toilet paper in that particular bathroom or something.
Or in the house.
These are just kind of common sense things that are like not so common sense sometimes, every time I go into our bathroom here, if I see like the toilet paper is getting low, like I set a couple rolls on the back of the toilet, just in case we have guests over and stuff. It'd be hugely embarrassing both ways, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So, plan your meal breaks in advance.
And just food in general. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to order pizzas?
Yeah.
Is it kind of like hey, just make sure you eat before you come over because it's getting a little later in the day?
Or, hey, I'm going to bring something. Oh, well, you brought lunch. I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something for lunch. If you have a plan, especially you can then kind of focus on, look, after this round, let's take a break and go grab burritos or burgers or whatever we're going to do. Having that planned also allows you to plan for how long of the day is going to be taken up with the game. You just talked earlier, Justin, about your game we completed it in about 4 hours. And then I saw you kind of step back and go, yeah, but we were also goofing off. And like in a tournament, you're playing a 2-hour game. Yes, we could play this game in 2 hours, but we tend to like to socialize and drink and talk and get something to eat halfway through the game and then come back to it. And, so if you're going to do that kind of thing, plan those meals in advance, especially if you're having a group of people over. Plan how you're going to do that. Plan how you're going to get.
You always tell people, hey, bring, don't everybody
bring $20 bills.
Bring 10s, 5s, whatever, so you can.
That if we're
Venmo.
Yeah.
Venmo
and actually,
well.
that has made life a lot easier. Venmo, PayPal, that kind of thing. Yeah, just PayPal me the money and whatever. Well, do you do Venmo? No, I don't freaking do Venmo. I do PayPal. I don't want to open yet another account. Can you please give me cash. Forget it. Just bring less than 20s.
Or I'll get you next time, dude.
I'll get you next time.
And then I think too, an important thing is like having the fridge stocked with, bottles of water and sodas or whatever, or beers. But also if you're going to somebody's house,
bring something.
Bring something.
Yeah.
Bring a 6-pack. Bring, a bag of chips.
And get them next time. Don't not get them
next time.
Get them
next time. Just common courtesy stuff, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're in a very fortunate position where, but I've always been like, when people come over to my house, I'm like, hey, my house is your house. Yeah. If you want to get something out of the fridge, go get it. We have a fridge in the game room. Well, it was a fridge. Now it's not plugged in because the power out here is gone. But
now it's a box.
No, it's just a box that stores some semi-warm White Claws that Justin brought over.
I'm taking those home.
You should. I'm not going to drink them. You're welcome to them.
But yeah, just basic stuff, right? I mean, clean your house, have the drinks, have everything ready to go. Make sure your significant other knows that your friend is coming over for a game.
Yeah.
That's also important.
And if you have kids.
Yeah.
Either direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a biggie.
I like to tend to set up the table before people come over. We can move stuff around, but you were talking earlier about, just getting into the game as quickly as possible and power level versus points. We were talking about that during the break. Having the terrain out and set up, even if you're going to shift it around or whatever, you're that much closer. Like that's a 15, 20 minute process of putting terrain out.
Yeah. I even went through, I had my mission objective already picked out. I had my kid, because the way you roll for your missions, of course. And I was like, hey, Jax, pick a number between 1 and 3. Okay, do that again. So Jackson picked the mission.
Pick the mission.
Because in 9th edition, you can't have objectives in terrain pieces anymore.
Right.
So I was able to go through and get all the objectives set up. I set up a cool looking table.
Around.
Yeah. And then my opponent shows up. The board is set. It's ready to go.
This is what we're going to do. Yeah.
This is our mission. I even texted him, like an hour before he came over. I'm like, hey, this is the mission we're doing. Jackson picked it. So he could kind of read up on it. And that probably saved 30 minutes, 40 minutes, So
yeah,
easy way to save some time.
For sure. But you hit on a good point, which was kind of significant others. Like if you're planning something in advance, give them as much advance notice. We use a family calendar, which is just a Google calendar that we kind of set up. Everybody has access to it. And so like if something's going on, I've got it planned in there and Shell sees it coming up.
Sure.
Hey, what's going on with this? And so there's just a bit of understanding that I'm going to have people here, you are sharing a space with people.
Yeah.
Be considerate.
Big time.
You may need to put away pets. We have 2 dogs here. If they come out here, occasionally Shell will let them out here during a show and you hear them clack, 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 come across the wood floor. I'm like, oh, come on, really right now? But people may be afraid of dogs, allergic to cats, whatever the case may be, make sure your pets are put away. And then we have the big elephant in the room, which is gaming in the time of COVID. And this is really, look, everybody by now knows wear a mask, keep your distance, hand sanitizer.
If you feel like you're sick,
don't come over.
If you've been around somebody, oh, did you hear Bob at work, got COVID? Like,
yep, you're now quarantined.
Yeah.
We have done something here where we basically have groups of friends that are our bubble. I always laugh about it. Like I think about it like our the old Sprint phone plan that you had where you'd have like, oh, you could have 5 friends in your group, and then you could call them free. Now you can call everybody. Basically it's flat under your rate. Right. But back then every call you made had a cost associated with it, but you could have these 5 or 6 people that you could call for free. We have, a group of us, fortunately gamers and stuff that we have kept to, look, we're going to socialize. We're not going to socialize outside of this group.
Yep.
And you're not going to socialize outside of this group. And so we are safe. If anybody doesn't feel well, immediately put a halt to any kind of meeting. But, it's taken very seriously around here in the Bay Area. And my company has shut down office stuff till at least January, and we'll see what happens then. It's just weird. It's weird. I don't want to. It's weird that this has become a political issue because it's really a health and safety issue, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
And we just want people to be safe, and we don't want people to take risks. We have people with kids, people with family members who are in what do you call it? At risk groups.
Yeah.
And so do what you think is wise. But understand your opponents may not be comfortable. We have one friend that, and I'm not going to say any names, but we have one friend who is not comfortable socializing within that group. Totally fine. I get it. But this is somebody who's like a coworker of mine. Their wife died at the beginning of this because of COVID. And I'm like, I can completely understand why you are not interested in socializing with anybody at this point. And it's tough on them. I mean, they are struggling with, being at home and blah, blah, blah. But I get it. And no pressure, man. Let us know when you feel safe enough.
For sure.
Don
was talking about how he went into a game store. I think it was in Arizona.
Yep.
And there was just tons of people in there, like
nobody
super crammed
masks.
in. And he's just like, I'm just going to get my paint and I'm out of here.
Nobody wearing masks, nothing like that. And again, it's a health and safety thing.
Yeah. You walk out of there and your hands are itching. You're just like, I can't get that
hand
stuff.
Sanitizer.
Can't get the hand sanitizer fast enough.
Yeah. squirting it in your mouth. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't
inject
you
it
see how
either.
fast I said that?
Don't squirt that in your mouth. Don't eat your paint.
Everybody's got to obviously do what they feel is right.
For sure.
Look, I'm not going to get on anybody about what they feel is right, but our group has an understanding, and this is how we've decided to approach it, right? And if people are going outside that group, then they take a break and that kind of thing, and that's just how we're playing it. So far so good.
It's a pretty responsible.
I think so. And I gave a lot of thought to it. Like, we gave a whole lot of thought to, are we willing to put ourselves at risk, at other people at risk? No, we're not willing to put other people at risk, but in this instant, we're putting ourselves at risk, So anyway, we had a lot of discussions about it within the Tuttle family household.
Yep.
So anyway, please be safe out there. Take care of yourselves. The game isn't worth getting sick over.
It is good to see people rolling dice again, though, just on the community page.
For
and
sure.
and doing it smartly,
Doing it safe.
Safely.
If you can play outside, right? Those alpha game tables are great for it. You can just
Love
set
that
up pretty
thing.
quickly out there. If you get a pop-up tent or something over it.
Yeah, just in case rain
do you
starts
have
coming
one of
down.
those?
Ooh, yeah, I got plenty of easy ups.
Okay. Yeah, playing outside, again, much safer, I think, in large areas, open windows.
And not having like 8 buddies over, just
Yep.
keep it
Yeah,
small.
believe me, I miss those game days,
I
man.
do too.
But I'm not going to do one until we're ready.
Miss classes.
Oh, miss classes so much.
So, yeah.
Actually,
Anyway, that's a real bummer to end this.
Yeah.
I should have put this at the beginning of the part. I didn't even think about that. Jesus. All right, well, let's take a break, then we'll come back and try not to cry anymore. All right, and we're back to kind of close out the show now. Caleb, first off, Kat, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kat.
She's now stepped away. Caleb, most of your CK Studios business and such had to do with being in person and doing classes in large groups, and that's clearly not happening now. You talked a while back about looking at maybe doing some online stuff. What's going on with you guys, you and Kat right now?
Man.
I can see you two are fighting.
Yeah. Gosh, it's pretty much CK's kind of on hold right now. I don't know. I guess you kind of agree with this, Justin. One of the unique, I don't want to say unique or whatever, but one of the good aspects, one of what we really enjoy about teaching is that personal touch that we can give.
Yeah.
Being able to work with the students, building the students up, making them better, seeing their work, seeing their progress, adjusting how they're doing. I mean, there is a million videos out there on how to airbrush.
Yeah, of course.
And there's a million patrons out there that you can learn to airbrush. And with enough money, you can get the 1-to-1s and all of that stuff. And so we've kind of set, I don't know, an expectation, a quality standard that we want. And I have been trying to figure out an online way to do that.
Listen, I get it. I mean, I'm the guy that's like, no, we don't do remote guests for a whole episode, right?
Sure.
And I've had to make some exceptions in this case, but yeah, no, I get it.
Right.
Like,
and while my video equipment is pretty high quality, I can put out pretty high quality video.
mm-hmm.
To get that kind of quality from the students, every student would have to invest. We're talking $800-900 in video equipment. That's that's not feasible, not for just a class. So unfortunately, it's really
on hiatus.
Yeah, I was really excited, and I thought that we had found a really good work through, and then we ran a class with a couple of students, and I was not happy with it.
And then you times that by 5-10 students or so, and it's like, how does that work?
Yeah.
To get the quality that we expect. What
my goal is unfortunately this COVID has taken a lot longer than everybody has kind of hoped. I don't know about expectations or whatever, but it's taken longer than hoped. I want to get back into doing more of the online presence that we'll do, get the Twitch feed going, maybe do some more of the Facebook live feeds and stuff like that. But as far as classes go, I think we're going to stay away from the online. If you're interested in doing some online stuff, I can give you guys some great resources. Cult of Paints, they just did a whole section of videos that are just fantastic. So there are some online resources that you can go to if you guys really want to get some online stuff done. And I get it. Everybody's stuck at home. Everybody's dying to use this time. If you're gonna be stuck at home, at least try
to be productive. In some
be
way.
productive. Yeah. Right.
I don't know anything about that.
But right now CK Studios, I have expectations that I want.
I think that's fair. Well, I mean, that kind of sets you apart too from the others. Like, this is what you're going to get out of this class. And when you can't guarantee that, hey, look, I'd rather hold off and do it right than do it halfway.
Exactly.
And I can respect the hell out of that.
Yep. There's just no substitute for that hands-on. No. Right there with the student,
it's funny when I took up snowboarding, it was at a time in my life where I didn't have a lot of money, and I was like, my family always went up once a year to Tahoe and did a ski trip over the weekend. And I was like, I can't really afford to go. And my dad was like, come up and rent some skis and I'll pay for it. And blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And then my buddy had a snowboard, and I was like, I always wanted to try snowboarding. He was going to loan me his snowboard. I'm like, let me try it. I said, Dad, I'll just need to rent some snowboard boots. And he said, okay. And he goes, I'll cover a lesson too. And I was like, cool. So I get this lesson, a snowboarding lesson. It's supposed to be with a group, and only myself and one other girl showed up. And so it was like almost 1-to-1. And I got so much out of that lesson, but there is no substitute for in-person kind of hand-holding, if you will, through a process. And you guys have this process down so well by this point that people are going to get the results out of it that they want to get, like you talked about at the opening of the show, the student who you see that quality coming out of their army. I can completely respect what you're talking about, 100%. So I'm excited for you guys to get back into it. I'm sure you guys are.
We're
chomping at the bit.
We can't wait. I mean, as soon as we can, we're going to be back. And I know there's a lot of students been very patient with us. We had to postpone and cancel quite a few classes.
I'm sure,
because of everything. But as soon as we can get going, we got some great plans for some new classes.
I guess you could just take this time to kind of refactor some things and
it's
cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, cool. They don't know what else there is to say.
Yeah.
No.
Cool. All right. Justin, you got anything you want to throw out there before we kind of wrap up the show?
No, not so much. Everything's good. We just recorded a new episode of Lords and Heroes. Go check that out for all you AOS heads. We did a 5-year kind of coverage of AOS and how far it's come and what we are looking forward to.
5 years, huh?
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Wow.
Cool.
So check that out. That was a lot of fun. Other than that, just loving the progress I'm getting and looking forward to playing more 9th edition.
Okay.
Loving it.
All right. So as you know, we have iTunes. You can get the show through iTunes. We super appreciate iTunes reviews out there. We have a Facebook group, which is moderated very well and is very supportive and just a great place to hang out. And we have Patreon episode or Patreon running. If you want to go, you can get extra episodes, and we're going to be relaunching our campaign stuff fairly soon. So lots of stuff you can look at there.
Absolutely.
Caleb, thanks for coming out, man.
Thanks for having me on.
No, super appreciate it.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, we miss you.
Way too long.
Horribly miss you guys. So, Kat, I was surprised that you came
I was
out
too,
today.
yeah. Surprise.
Yeah, she showed up. I was like, oh, Kat's here too. This is great. So I almost turned her away at the door, but Anyway.
I thought I was going to get kicked out of my seat. They're like, oh, Kat's here.
No, she can't even talk into the mic straight. It's either not talking into the mic or chewing hard candy on the remote. And I'm never going to let that go.
She just walks to a different beat. That's all.
All right. Well, until next time, this is Carl.
This is Justin,
This is Caleb.
And we're coming to you from the Broken Astronomicon,
the dim Astronomicon.
where power level is what gets you to the table fast.
And yeah. God. And preparing is more than half the battle. And Caleb?
All right. We'll see you guys next time. This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.